Chapter 860 Blood Sky Sword. Chapter 860 Blood Sky Sword. The Divine Sea. It was vast and magnificent. After Jian Wushuang joined the Blood Eagle Guard, he had cultivated in seclusion in the Divine Sea for a month. He had made great progress during this period of time. Once again, he had received the opportunity to enter the Divine Sea and could even stay for 2 months this time. He was not going to waste a second of it. Once inside the Divine Sea, he immediately began soaking himself in the Blood Sea. Hot and strange energy entered his body through his pores, permeating his sword heart and body. It was just as comfortable as it had been the last time he experienced it. Jian Wushuang relaxed, allowing the hot energy to soak in. At the same time, he devoted all of his energy to the study of the first sword formation of the Ninth Heaven Sword Formation. The Ninth Heaven Sword Formation was so enigmatic and complicated that Jian Wushuang failed to gain any insight, even after meditating on it for half a month. However, once he entered the Divine Sea, its special effect improved his comprehensive ability greatly, making it much easier for him to meditate on it. Time flew by. 2 months later, Jian Wushuang walked out of the Divine Sea. The Divine Sea is really magical. Since I've already benefited from it once before, I thought that I wouldn't have a big harvest this time. However, it turned out to be even bigger. Jian Wushuang's eyes sparkled with excitement. He stayed in the Divine Sea longer, so it was only natural that he made greater progress. His sword heart and body had been greatly enhanced. Especially his sword heart, which had reached the top of level 4, only 1 step away from level 5. Every steps forward for my sword heart is very difficult. It usually takes an ordinary Eternal Realm expert many years to even see a slight improvement. But, because I was able to enter the Divine Sea twice, its special effect saved me a lot of time, Jian Wushuang thought with a smile. What really made him happy was that he finally managed to master the first sword formation after meditating on it for 2 months. I have already comprehended the sword formation. Now I only need to obtain some magic weapons and gain some practical experience, he thought while clenching his fists. Then he immediately headed for the treasure vault of the Blood Eagle Guard. I need sword-type magic weapons at the Eternal Realm level, and they should be identical if possible, Jian Wushuang said. Wait a minute, the spirit of the treasure vault replied. It quickly gave him a list of treasures. Jian Wushuang started to read it carefully. There were many kinds of standard sword-type magic weapons that were at the Eternal Realm level in the Blood Eagle Guard treasure vault. Their power and appearance were exactly the same, so they were suitable for his sword formation. Jian Wushuang finally focused on a standard manufactured magic weapon named Blood Sky Sword. The Blood Sky Sword was a peak-level eternal weapon with an extremely slim and sharp sword blade. The most terrifying aspect of the Ninth Heaven Sword Formation is its speed and power. Therefore, sharp swords are definitely the most suitable. In addition, the Blood Sky Sword is of extremely high level. Jian Wushuang nodded. Peak-level eternal weapons were the highest among all eternal weapons. Anything higher would be an Emperor weapon. Jian Wushuang had thought of using Emperor weapons to form the Ninth Heaven Sword Formation, but that meant he would need to collect 36 standard manufactured Emperor weapons, which was out of his reach right now. Therefore, the Blood Sky Swords would be sufficient for now. As a peak-level eternal weapon, the Blood Sky Sword was worth about 10 million divine gems in the market, so it costs him 1,000 points in the Blood Eagle Guard treasure vault. Jian Wushuang directly used 36,000 points to exchange for 36 swords. In addition, he also exchanged for some natural treasures which could enhance his body and some elixirs for healing or with other special effects, which cost him all the points he had earned by completing tasks over the past 15 years. He even used all his divine gems to exchange for treasures. He even bought some items which were strange but might be useful. I'm going to the Stellar Fog Sea, a place where points and divine gems are useless. I'm not sure whether I can survive, so it would be better to use the points and divine gems to improve my current strength. Before entering the Stellar Fog Sea, any improvement in my strength will increase my chances of surviving. Jian Wushuang had a clear understanding of his situation. After collecting enough treasures, he left the Blood Eagle Guard residence and went to a deep mountain, where he practiced the ninth heaven sword formation alone. In a quiet valley. The shrill echoes of swords continuously resounded throughout the valley. In the center of the valley, dozens of sharp swords instantly combined with each other at an amazing speed. The long swords instantly formed a 2-foot scarlet longsword, which was surrounded by a strange aura. The scarlet longsword, which released an extremely terrifying aura, rushed forward under the manipulation of its master, Jian Wushuang. Whoosh! A streak of scarlet flowing light flashed forward like a meteor hurtling through the sky. Swoosh! The sword light seemed to pierce through the sky, causing a huge hole to form in the area it passed through. Its power was extremely terrifying. However, this scarlet longsword suddenly trembled after rushing forward for less than 100 meters and completely collapsed into dozens of blood sky swords. Using his will, Jian Wushuang summoned the 36 blood sky swords back. I can manage to form the sword formation, but I still haven't fully understood some of its special applications. The most terrifying aspect of the first sword formation, trackless sword move, is its speed. However, when I display it, it's too slow. It seems that I still need to practice more. This sword formation was too complicated. Even after Jian Wushuang mastered it, he still needed a certain amount of practice before he would be able to display its full power. However, he was not discouraged at all. From this day on, he kept practicing the trackless sword move alone in this secluded valley. He devoted himself to the practice of the sword formation. Time flew by while he was practicing. Chapter 861, Setting Out. Chapter 861, Setting Out. It was still in midair in the untouched rift. Jian Wushuang, dressed in a black robe, stood there indifferently. There were dozens of blood sky swords densely suspended in front of him. Combine! With Jian Wushuang's roar, the dozens of blood sky swords immediately combined at an astonishing speed to form a scarlet longsword as long as 6 meters. The scarlet longsword was surrounded by an air current, giving off an astonishing air of violence. Go! Controlled by Jian Wushuang's thoughts, the scarlet longsword flitted. Swish! A blood shadow flashed by, but left no trace in the air. The next moment, a slight swish came from a high mountain hundreds of meters away. Then the top half of the mountain was lifted and dropped sideways. In the middle of the mountain was an extremely smooth and neat cut made by a sharp blade. This giant mountain was split into 2 halves by one single slash. The sword rung, and the 6-meter-long scarlet longsword appeared again beside Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed brightly as he saw the extremely neat cut in the center of the mountain ahead. This is dreadful. It turns out to be strongest sword formation created by Sunrise Sword Emperor and Tao Master Spirit. This 9th heaven sword formation really is terrifying. The first sword formation alone is scary enough. Too fast. Its speed is too fast and its power is even more amazing. In Jian Wushuang's eyes was a maniacal gaze. With my current ability, if I deploy the first sword formation with all my strength, there'll probably be few Eternal Realm cultivators who could parry it. It's definitely a great killer. It'll be my strongest killing move. Jian Wushuang had lots of skills, like Boundless Heaven Sword Art and 3 Fingers of the Ancient God. They were all awesome. However, the Boundless Heaven Sword Art was far weaker than the 9th Heaven Sword formation. The 3 Fingers of the Ancient God was the supreme unique skill of the Ancient God clan, but with his weak strength, Jian Wushuang couldn't give full play to the real power of the unique skill at all. Therefore, Jian Wushuang's current strongest move was the first sword formation of the 9th Heaven Sword formation. It's lucky that I can master such a great killing move before entering the Stellar Fog Sea. In fact, I should also really thank my first senior brother. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly, but his expression soon turned serious. I've mastered the first sword formation and I have prepared everything else I need to prepare. Now, it's time to begin. He lifted his head and looked up at the sky for a second, and then went straight back. After all, it had been a year. His time was up. Jian Wushuang would go into the stellar fog sea together with Jiuzui, Ling Long and Shui Jin. But before they set out, Jian Wushuang would first go to the palace. With his status as a three-clawed blood eagle guard, it wasn't difficult for him to enter the palace. Soon, he met Leng Rushuang again. Jian Wushuang only had a quick cup of tea in the courtyard of Leng Rushuang's residence before leaving again. Wait for me. I'll bring the Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit back for you, for sure. Jian Wushuang thought to himself. At no point did Leng Rushuang ever know that Jian Wushuang was about to go to the stellar fog sea to find her the Yin-Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit. It was in the magnificent Scarlet Temple, the lair of the Blood Eagle Guards. Jiuzhu, Ling Long and Shui Jin all arrived, and Commander Hong sat there on the throne at the front of the temple. Soon, Jian Wushuang had also arrived. Well, now that everyone is here, let's set out now. I will take you to a branch of the Void Temple first. The Void Temple will have the fastest wormholes to the stellar fog sea. Jian Wushuang and the other three had long been ready. They all nodded slightly and followed Commander Hong. They entered the branch of the Void Temple, and Commander Hong paid the transmission fee for the four. They went through the transmission channel and soon arrived at the stellar fog sea. Jian Wushuang, Jiuzui, Ling Long and Shui Jin stood side by side above the void. They stared at the territory ahead of them, completely shrouded in gray fog. They couldn't see anything inside with the naked eye. The entire territory was deathly quiet. That is the legendary stellar fog sea? Jiuzui looked a little solemn. I heard about the stellar fog sea long ago, but I didn't expect I would ever actually go inside and explore it one day, Ling Long said in a deep voice. We have with us the restriction personally set by Empress Leng. Even if we know it is almost certain death, we must still enter it. They were all completely prepared, but as they were about to enter the stellar fog sea, their hearts inevitably sank. Jian Wushuang marveled to himself. Empress Leng is really brilliant. Her restriction actually forces me to bring both of my original bodies into the stellar fog sea. It's impossible to leave one of them behind. Jian Wushuang had two original bodies, and each of which had their own consciousness. When either one was destroyed, the other one would be restored. This was a big advantage for Jian Wushuang. Originally, Jian Wushuang had planned to bring the world body and leave the slaughter body behind when he went to the stellar fog sea with his skills and trump cards, so that even if he was in danger and his body died, he would only lose his world body and the treasure brought by it, and he could still save his life. If the treasure was lost, he could still find a way to get it back, but if he died, he would have nothing. Jian Wushuang had good intentions, but unfortunately, Empress Leng seemed to have anticipated that someone would come who knew the doppelganger's secret skill. So her restriction confined Jian Wushuang's two original bodies. If one of his original bodies was left behind, Empress Leng's restriction would instantly activate and kill him. Folks, we're about to enter the stellar fog sea. No one has any idea what kind of danger really lurks within up to now. When we get there, we only have a fighting chance of surviving if the four of us work together. So before we go in, everyone will say which method they will use so that we can coordinate with each other, Jiuzui suggested. Jian Wushuang, Ling Long and Shui Jin all nodded in agreement. In places like the stellar fog sea, not working together was courting death. Knowing each person's method would indeed be of great use to their cooperative effort. Chapter 862, In the Fog Siege. Chapter 862, In the Fog Sea. Let me say first, Jiuzui was the first to speak. I am good at attacking and killing, and most of my spearmanship involves combining strength and then detonating it, so my explosive power is very strong. My offensive power alone should be far above the top level of Step 6. My strongest shot can even kill the cultivators at peak Step 6. Jiuzui spoke with complete confidence. Obviously, he must have once killed an expert at peak Step 6. Because of this, he had been ranked first among so many three-clawed Blood Eagle guards. Jiuzui, Shui Jin and I have seen how awesome your strongest shot is, which is indeed able to kill the top experts at Step 6. Of all of us, your offensive power is definitely the strongest. Ling Long laughed. What I am best at is fighting with people. Even if I meet someone stronger than me, I can entangle him for a long time. And this year I used up all the points I had obtained from the tasks I completed and spent them on improving my life-saving ability, so now my life-saving ability is extremely strong. Shui Jin, it's your turn. As for me, I am pretty balanced in all aspects. The only thing that is particularly strong is my body, which should be much stronger than anybody else's. And with the Shui Ying leather armor, I can withstand anybody's attack for a long time, even if they are stronger than me. In addition, I have a secret skill that can generate 2 doppelgangers in a short time, but these 2 doppelgangers contain less than 30% of the strength of the original body, Shui Jin said. Before they entered the Stellar Fog Sea, they hid little of their own abilities, except for those secrets that were the most important to them. Blood Mountain, what about you? Jiuzui and the other 2 all looked at Jian Wushuang. As for me, Jian Wushuang mused for a moment before he spoke. I'm good at swordsmanship. My ability to fight closely is very strong and my body speed is not bad. Besides, I have the consciousness attack method. Even the experts at the peak step 6 will have a temporary confusion of consciousness if I use the method suddenly. Besides, I learned a new killing move this year. This killing move is very powerful and I believe few Eternal Realm experts can parry it. Oh. Jiuzui and the others could not help but be surprised. They all knew Jian Wushuang was still at the Divine Realm. They already felt it was incredible that a Divine Realm expert could be so powerful, but now Jian Wushuang actually had a formidable killing move. What was more, few Eternal Realm experts could parry it. I wonder which one is stronger, your killing move or my strongest attack? Jiuzui laughed. Jian Wushuang also laughed, saying nothing. Both of them were absolutely confident in their own killing moves, and neither thought their own was weaker. However, they had not tested it out. Okay, we all have a rough knowledge of our abilities. Now we should set off, Jiuzui said. Jian Wushuang, Ling Long and Shui Jin all nodded in agreement. Then without hesitation, the 4 strode straight toward the boundless stellar fog sea. A moment later, they had entered the confines of the sea. As soon as they entered it, a large gray fog enshrouded them, and it was all they could see. The fog of this stellar fog sea is quite weird. It can actually obscure my view. I can only see for a few kilometers, Jiuzui said in a deep voice. Jian Wushuang, Ling Long and Shui Jin also were aware of this. It should be known that they were all experts at peak step 6 with awesome strength, so they had very good eyesight. But they could only see things within 1 kilometer, which obviously meant they were being greatly restricted. This stellar fog sea is incomparably mysterious. We don't know what's in it. Everyone must be very careful, Ling Long said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded, his eyes fixed on his surroundings. No one knew what was in the stellar fog sea at all because no one had ever really come out from it. Like the Dao Master experts, they could only ever go around the perimeter. The same was true for some of those who had mastered the doppelganger's secret skill. They wanted to send their doppelgangers in to investigate the stellar fog sea, but they could only circle the perimeter and could not enter the core, just like those Dao Master experts. Jian Wushuang and the others walked slowly and cautiously in the stellar fog sea, not daring to go too quickly. They walked on for several days, and did not encounter any danger or any living creatures. The entire stellar fog sea was deathly silent. It was so silent that it was terrifying. After they walked on for a few days, they reached a place where the fog around them was significantly thicker than before. It was at least several times thicker. We must have entered the interior of the stellar fog sea by now, right? Good Lord, the fog here is actually much thicker. With my eyesight, before I could see things clearly for more or less about 1 kilometer, but now I can see only for about 100 meters. Me too. Their hearts grew heavy. 100 meters. It was too short. With such little visibility, if there was any danger ahead, they would not know before it was too late. If they encountered a sudden attack, they would probably be dead before they saw its shadow. Jiuzui, you come to the rear and I'll go to the front, Jian Wushuang said suddenly. Ooh? Jiao Zue gave Jian Wushuang a surprised look, but did not refuse. Jian Wushuang walked at the front of the four-person squad, but did not rush. He took a deep breath, and the next moment, the scarlet mark between his eyebrows abruptly split open, and a very weird, upside-down bloody eye suddenly opened. One of the three ancient gods' secret skills, the Scarlet Eye. The Scarlet Eye secret skill was the most unique of the three ancient gods' secret skills. Its effect was to see reality and illusion clearly. It could also penetrate the fog. Jian Wushuang activated his secret skill. Now the Scarlet Eye was opened, he could see clearly for more than a kilometer. "Follow me," Jian Wushuang said. The group was astonished to see the weird blood-red eye between Jian Wushuang's eyebrows, but they didn't ask about it. Following Jian Wushuang, they slowly marched on. Only moments later, Jian Wushuang suddenly stopped. "There's someone here." Jian Wushuang spoke slowly and his gaze intensified. Chapter 863 Humanoid Weapons. Chapter 863 Humanoid Weapons. "Someone here." Jiaozi, Ling Long and Shui Jin all looked ahead. However, they could only see for 100 meters, and did not see the someone that Jian Wushuang was referring to. "He's walking toward us." Jian Wushuang looked serious, as he could see with his scarlet eye a burly figure slowly approaching the four of them. In any other place, he would not be so vigilant when encountering somebody. But this was the stellar fog sea. To encounter a human being in the stellar fog sea. Could it be an expert who had entered, but was trapped and could not get out? This is what they all thought. Moments later, this burly figure could also be seen by the other three. The burly figure seemed to be a middle-aged man more than 2 meters tall. He was extremely sturdy, and carried a wide, thick broadsword. He looked like any other ordinary human warrior. However, when they really saw this figure clearly, their pupils all constricted in fear. They actually could not feel the slightest aura from the man. He had no spiritual power aura or life aura. It felt more or less like a puppet fighter. But then again, he was very different from a puppet fighter. "What the hell is he?" Jian Wushuang frowned tightly, keeping alert. Jiaozi, Ling Long and Shui Jin stood side by side with Jian Wushuang. They all took out their magic weapons, ready to fight at any time. At that moment, the burly man suddenly looked up. As he looked up, he revealed a pair of scarlet expressionless eyes with nothing but endless murderous intent. "Intruder, kill." The burly man uttered 2 simple words. The next moment, thundering, he charged straight for them. "Humph." Standing beside Jian Wushuang, Jiao Zue grunted. Then a vast emperor weapon aura burst out from his black sword as he charged toward the burly man. Magic Dragon Kill. With Jiao Zue's deep roar, a mighty power burst out from the black long spear as he slashed with it. This slashing produced strong wind, pushing back the gray fog permeating the air. The terrifying strong power was enough to astound any expert at peak step 6. Although this was not Jiao Zue's strongest attack, he was still very confident in its power and believed that it would be difficult for a normal cultivator at peak Eternal Realm level to fight against. The burly man flitted quickly as he pulled out the wide, thick broadsword on his back and slashed directly at Jiao Zue with no finesse. It was a mediocre slash, but it made a lot of fog around dissipate, and the void burst open abruptly. Clang! With a loud clashing sound, 2 formidable powers collided head-on and the winner emerged in an instant. "What?" Jiao Zue let out a muffled groan, blood gushing from the corners of his mouth. He looked up in shock and staggered quickly backward. "This?" Jian Wushuang, Ling Long and Shui Jin all stood behind and had not joined the attack. They were astounded at the scene before them. Jiao Zue ranked first among so many 3-clawed Blood Eagle guards. Additionally, he was best at attacking. His offensive power was definitely the strongest among the 4, except for Jian Wushuang with the strongest killing move. Nevertheless, he was actually repelled by this burly man with only 1 move. Die! After Jiao Zue retreated, the burly man did not stop. He immediately appeared in front of the other three and was slashing at them with his wide, thick broadsword. So fast. Jian Wushuang looked astonished. This burly figure moved with explosive speed, and it was much faster than Jian Wushuang. His offensive power extremely strong, and he is also very quick. Jian Wushuang tried hard to suppress the terror inside him, and he retreated immediately. He was still only in a normal human state, and he had not yet become a gold-armored ancient god, so he could not fight head-to-head with this burly man. When he retreated, Ling Long and Shui Jin immediately dashed toward the man. Shui Jin was extremely confident in his strength. He wielded the saber and went to fight head-on with the burly man. Two of them broke out their saber techniques at the same time. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The blade light streaked ruthlessly across the void, splitting it open effortlessly with every slash. Shui Jin's saber technique was extremely potent while the burly man's saber technique was extremely fierce. Every slash was faster than the previous one. Too fast, his sword is too fast. Shui Jin was astonished. Fighting with this burly man, he found that his saber technique was clearly stronger than his own. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A strange, black shadow rushed forward. The viper-like, black shadow was endless and extremely quick. It was a long whip that Ling Long brandished. She moved her unusually cunning, fierce long whip, cracking it right in the space between where the burly man and Shui Jin were fighting. The angle was so cunning that the burly man could not dodge in time. Crack! The long whip hit the burly man, making a clear sound. But this whip only stopped him for a second, and the next moment he was slashing violently again with his wide, thick broadsword. It's impossible! A sense of shock surged through Ling Long. Jian Wushuang, a gold-armored ancient god, saw clearly from one side what had happened, and he was terrified. His offensive power is strong enough to repel Jiuzue in one move, and his speed is so fast that it's even hard for Shui Jin to withstand. But even his body is that strong? Ling Long's offensive power was not strong enough, but a strike of her whip could cause some harm, even to a peak Step 6 expert. But this burly man continued attacking as if nothing had happened to him. His attack, speed, and defense were abnormal, and he had almost no weaknesses. Was he really human? What the hell is this guy? Is he a human being or a weapon? Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. Blood Mountain, don't just stand there. Let's go. You need to create an opportunity. There's no way my strongest attack can't kill him. There was madness in Jiuzue's eyes when he went back in. He gave Jian Wushuang a look and immediately rushed to fight. Create an opportunity? Jian Wushuang nodded. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand exploded with horrifying power, and he charged out with his huge body. The four fought together in fierce battle against the humanoid weapon. Chapter 864 Kill. Chapter 864 Kill. Under the cover of the endless gray fog, an intense battle was ensuing. Jian Wushuang, Jiuzue, Ling Long and Shui Jin worked together and made an all-out effort to attack. Jian Wushuang drove the Blood Mountain sword with all his strength, and from it, an extremely strong power burst out. His swordsmanship had been brought into full play, and it was either swift and violent or strange and cunning. He also tried to deploy his mind-controlling secret skill, but it apparently had no effect on this burly man. By virtue of the power of the Emperor weapon, Jiuzue fiercely slashed at the burly man's weak points again and again with the long spear. Ling Long brandished the long whip like a ferocious, vicious python, which greatly limited the burly man's actions. As for Shui Jin, he had deployed his secret skill which could quickly merge two doppelgangers, and he also spared no effort in the attack. However, the four of them still couldn't defeat the burly man in the least. His offensive power, speed, defense, and saber technique are all formidable. This guy is so fearsome. I have never seen such a terrifying Eternal Realm expert. During the fighting, the four were all astonished by the strength that the burly man had shown. They had long discovered that this burly man had not reached the level of Tao Master, but was merely at the Eternal Realm. They too were all at the Eternal Realm. But this burly man was definitely the most terrifying because he was much stronger than any Eternal Realm expert they had seen. Ling Long, tie him up, Jiao Zue suddenly roared. Okay. Ling Long nodded solemnly and a long whip appeared in her hand. As Ling Long's waved her hands, the two long whips violently bit at the burly man like two pythons. Swish! The two pythons were restless and they seemed to want to entwine the burly man's whole body. But he sensed it and a vast power suddenly burst out from his wide, thick broadsword, pushing the two long whips straight to the sides. As the burly man parried Ling Long's two long whips, Jiao Zue seized the opportunity to make his move. A terrifying power gathered in his hands, and his eyes glistened with fury. His figure shook and he immediately appeared in front of the burly man, and the long spear in his hand slashed straight at him like lightning. Blood Shadow Heavenly Dragon, kill! Jiao Zue roared. This awesome shot was his strongest, and he had the utmost confidence in it. Boom! The void was slashed, forming a huge hole, and an invisible airstream filled the surroundings. Around the spear formed a huge corkscrew tunnel, and in the center of this tunnel burst out an extremely terrifying strong power. This is Jiao Zue's strongest attack? Jian Wushuang stared at it, and his eyes flashed with a hint of shock. This attack was indeed powerful. Even if Jian Wushuang had never personally experienced this power, he could easily guess its strength when he saw Jiao Zue slash. I don't think you can still parry this shot. Jiao Zue's cold eyes locked tightly on the burly man in front of him. The burly man reacted the moment Jiao Zue deployed his attack, and furiously slashed at Jiao Zue with his wide, thick broadsword. The simple, straight slashing had such a strong power. It was easily able to split a mountain. Bang! A huge crash. Jiao Zue's body shook and he staggered backward for several steps. The burly man was also forced to take several steps backward. How is it possible? Jiao Zue was completely dumbstruck. This, Ling Long and Shui Jin looking on also felt it was incredible. Ling Long and Shui Jin knew very exactly how powerful Jiao Zue's strongest attack was. At the very least, the two of them didn't dare to face this shot head-on. Jiao Zue had used his strongest shot when he clashed with this burly man head-on, but they actually came out even. He was only casually attacking? Ling Long marveled. Was the burly man was actually this strong? Get out of the way! A cold roar suddenly resounded. Jiao Zue, Ling Long and Shui Jin all looked to their side. The black-robed Jian Wushuang was standing in midair with cold eyes as dozens of long swords appeared beside him. There were 36 long swords in total and each of them had an extremely strong aura. They did not reach the Emperor weapon level, but they all were top eternal weapons. Besides, these long swords were exactly the same in both shape and size. Merge! To the astonishment of the three people watching, the 36 long swords merged straight together at an amazing speed. Instantly, a 20-meter sharp scarlet longsword appeared in the fog sea. As soon as the scarlet longsword appeared, a terrifying power was immediately emitted and ripples danced in the surrounding void. Go! Jian Wushuang's eyes flashed fiercely, and instantly the 20-meter scarlet longsword flitted. The scarlet longsword was too fast, so fast that, with their eyesight, Jiao Zue and the other two could barely see the blood shadow streak across the void. The burly man also discovered this move that Jian Wushuang deployed, and naturally wanted to parry it the first time. But the blood shadow was too fast. A terrifying speed. It was fast to the extreme. The burly man was still carefully trying to make out the trajectory of the blood shadow when, with a swish, his head flew straight off. He was killed before he could offer any resistance. This was the 9th Heaven Sword formation, known as the strongest in the Eternal World. The Traceless Sword formation, the first sword formation of the 9th Heaven Sword formation, had a good speed. The sword formation was so swift that none could catch a trace of it. It killed the opponent in the blink of an eye. The burly man's head flew off, and at long last, the void in the endless fog sea calmed down completely. Jian Wushuang summoned the 36 blood sky swords back and then appeared beside the burly man. Jiuzi, Ling Long and Shui Jin all came up to the man. There was still a hint of amazement in their eyes as they stared down at the decapitated corpse. "Is he dead?" Ling Long was the first to speak. "He should be." Jian Wushuang nodded slightly. "When I chopped off his head, I planned to smash the life core in his body while I was at it. But I found there was no life core in his body. It seems he isn't a normal Eternal Realm human warrior." Chapter 865, The Encounters. Chapter 865, The Encounter. Eternal Realm cultivators, known as eternal existences, had endless lives, and the cores inside their bodies were life cores. As long as their life cores weren't broken, they weren't dead. This burly man did not have a life core, so naturally, he could not have been an Eternal Realm human warrior. Besides, the burly man had nothing with him except a broad, thick broadsword, not even an interspatial ring. It seemed that he was very similar to the puppet fighters in the Eternal World, but they were merely similar and were quite different in some respects. I don't know what kind of monster he is, but his strength is really terrifying. I have lived for a long time. I have seen countless Eternal Realm experts, including experts at peak Eternal Realm who are stronger than me. But none of them could do anything but escape if they met this guy. Jiao Zue marveled. Eternal Realm cultivators with such terrifying offensive power, speed, defense, and saber techniques are absolute nightmares to deal with? Shui Jin nodded. Thanks to Blood Mountain's killing move, we could just about kill him. As Jian Wushuang spoke, Jiuzi, Ling Long and Shui Jin all looked at him with weird expressions. They had fought to the best of their abilities, and they couldn't harm the burly man in the slightest. But Jian Wushuang killed him easily with a killing move. The blood shadow just now, they could not help but recall the killing move Jian Wushuang had just displayed. The blood shadow was so fast that it was a blur to them. Its power was extremely formidable. Jiao Zue's strongest shot merely had extremely strong power, but Jian Wushuang's killing move was a combination of speed and power. Additionally, its strongest point was its speed. It was because its speed was so fast that the burly man could not parry it in time, and Jian Wushuang could kill him at one fell swoop. Blood Mountain, I really didn't expect that you, a Divine Realm expert, could actually possess such a terrifying killing move. Jiao Zue stared at Jian Wushuang. Just now, he had still had absolute confidence in his strongest shot. Although he knew Jian Wushuang had a killing move, he thought his killing move must not have been as terrifying as his strongest shot. But it was proven Jian Wushuang's killing move was definitely several times more formidable than his strongest shot. Take the burly man just now for an example. Jiao Zue had displayed his strongest move, but he could not gain the upper hand. But Jian Wushuang's killing move killed the burly man in seconds. No wonder you dared to say that few Eternal Realm experts could block your killing move. It's indeed very formidable, as it could even kill such an appalling human-shaped monster. I wonder who among the Eternal Realm cultivators in the Eternal World could survive your killing move? If there really is someone who can, perhaps it's the first so-called Master Mubai of the Xia clan of the Eternal Realm in the Eternal World. Shui Jin marveled. Okay, let's forget about him for a moment, Jian Wushuang said, changing the subject. We had barely entered this stellar fog sea when we met that human-shaped monster. I really have no idea what will happen next. We had better be as careful as we can. Yes, you're right. We met such a horrifying humanoid monster at the beginning, maybe we'll encounter even greater trouble. Jiao Zue nodded solemnly. Go, let's keep going. The group did not linger for too long, but continued straight ahead. There was a vast lake in the depths of the stellar fog sea. The lake was also filled with vast gray fog, and there were all kinds of lotus leaves in the lake. Unlike in the outside world, the lotus leaves here were very huge, and each of them was like a ship, big enough for dozens of people to stand on. There was an enchanting woman in red sitting cross-legged in the middle of one of the lotus leaves. The enchanting woman had been sitting on the lotus leaf for a long time, but she suddenly opened her eyes when Jian Wushuang deployed the first sword formation of the ninth heaven sword formation and killed the burly man. Her eyes were beautiful and bright like jewels. At that moment, a small, strange smile slowly crept across her mouth. He actually killed a blood demon. Because of the special restriction, cultivators above Dao Master can't enter this stellar fog sea. Only those young men in the Eternal Realm can enter it. The blood demon is the nightmare of Eternal Realm cultivators, and even if many top Eternal Realm cultivators teamed up, logically speaking, only he could kill them. But now, he has actually been destroyed? Interesting, it seems that before long there will be another interesting young man on Star Island, the enchanting woman in red muttered. She then closed her eyes again. After killing the blood demon, a humanoid monster, the group forged ahead, and they grew significantly more cautious. They also slowed down. 3 days later, the four met their second creature in the stellar fog sea. Unlike the humanoid monster before, the second creature they met was actually a one-eyed giant with a height of about 100 meters. The one-eyed giant held a mace with tremendous murderous intent. When he saw the group, he did not speak as the human-shaped monster did, he immediately rushed toward them. The four of them were very vigilant at first, and they fought with the giant very cautiously, but soon they found the one-eyed giant was clearly weaker than the human-shaped monster Jian Wushuang had killed. All four of them were strong enough to fight head-on with the one-eyed giant and could outclass him. As a result, they worked together and easily killed the one-eyed giant. They continued on their adventure and met many living beings. From the humanoid monster and the one-eyed giant at the beginning to the various strange forms of exotic beasts, the group had never seen these before in the eternal world. They were unique to this stellar fog sea. They were extremely strong, and many of them had the strength of peak step 6 of the Eternal Realm. However, they were far weaker than the human-shaped monster they had met at the beginning. These exotic beasts immediately attacked the group when they saw them, so the group had to constantly find new ways to deal with them. The stellar fog sea was boundless, and the fog was spread throughout. The four people could not clearly make out which way to go, so they had to continually walk forward and explore. Chapter 866, The Dramatic Change. Chapter 866, The Dramatic Change. Before they knew it, the group had been in the stellar fog sea for 1 year. Under the cover of lots of gray fog, swish, a cold sword shadow burst swiftly out and instantly slashed a purple exotic beast 10 meters in height. The purple beast let out a desperate scream and was viciously killed. Seeing Jian Wushuang kill the purple exotic beast, Jiaozi, Ling Long and Shuijin all went up to it. Blood Mountain, it seems your swordsmanship is better than before. Jiaozi looked at Jian Wushuang, a little solemnly. Ling Long and Shuijin both nodded. They saw it too. Yes, a little. Jian Wushuang smiled and did not deny it. During the year, the four of them had been roving around in the stellar fog sea. They bumped into thousands of exotic beasts. Some of these exotic beasts appeared alone, and some gathered together in 2s and 3s. Once the four met these exotic beasts, a fierce battle would break right out. Jian Wushuang considered these exotic beasts his enhancement objects. As he fought fiercely with these exotic beasts, he was constantly honing his swordsmanship and improving his strength. After 1 year, he had not made too much progress, but his swordsmanship had improved. Among the four of us, you are already the strongest, but you are still making continued progress. Jiao Zue smiled bitterly because he himself was indeed very strong, but he barely had any confidence in competing with Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had fully proved his strength in several fierce battles this year. Notably, they had encountered dangers several times during the year. In this critical moment, Jian Wushuang would come forward and use his almost invincible killing move, and he could not be resisted at all. Now even Jiao Zue had to admit that Jian Wushuang was stronger than him, and he was absolutely the strongest of them all. Blood Mountain, I really envy you. Obviously, you are strong enough, but you still have a lot of room for improvement, said Jiao Zue. As for us, we have reached peak Eternal Realm and almost have no room to improve our strength. It would be impossible to improve greatly unless we break through and reach the Tao Master Realm. But it's too hard and we probably couldn't make it even if we struggled for a lifetime. But you, Tsk? Hearing this, Ling Long and Shui Jin both nodded. They had reached the peak of the Eternal Realm and had little room for improvement. But Jian Wushuang, he was merely a Divine Realm expert. He still had huge room for growth. He would surely make a leap in strength in the future when he broke through and reached the Eternal Realm. By the way, when will you break through and reach the Eternal Realm? Ling Long looked at Jian Wushuang. The stellar fog sea was extremely dangerous. Naturally, while they wandered around here, the stronger they were, the better. In the current realm, Jian Wushuang already had exceptional strength. Once he broke through to the Eternal Realm, his battle strength would increase and he could be of even greater help to them. Break through to the Eternal Realm? Jian Wushuang smiled. He was not lying, as indeed he would break through soon. Back in the Firmament territory, his third senior brother Bai Hu gave him a 7-colored Dao fruit which was of great help to his comprehension of the Dao. Later, he meditated in the Divine Sea twice, which substantially improved his comprehension of the Dao. He hadn't completely mastered the 9th occult in both the World Dao and Slaughter Dao, but it was only a step away and he felt it would not be long before he could break through. The four were talking and laughing casually when, boom, the whole world began shaking. As it shook, heavy voices suddenly came from the nearby void. What's happening? The group looked serious. Jian Wushuang deployed the scarlet eye immediately to see ahead. What is it? Do you see something? Ling Long asked. Not yet. Jian Wushuang shook his head. With gray fog covering the stellar fog sea, with his scarlet eye, he could only see clearly for 100 meters, and those heavy voices obviously came from farther away. It seemed something was approaching quickly, as those heavy voices were getting louder and louder. Are they exotic beasts? Jiao Zui's asked with a grave expression. As they wandered around in the stellar fog sea, they mostly met exotic beasts. Wait a second, I'm about to see it. Jian Wushuang used the Scarlet Eye secret skill the best he could and stared ahead. The next moment, huge exotic beasts appeared for him to see. There were too many exotic beasts. Just a moment later, there were at least hundreds of exotic beasts in his sight. This is actually an exotic beast rampage. There was a hint of fright in Jian Wushuang's eyes, and he immediately screamed, "Run! Hurry up!" As he shouted, Jian Wushuang turned straight around and ran. Jiaozi, Ling Long, and Shui Jin couldn't see the thousands of exotic beasts charging, but they all believed Jian Wushuang's Scarlet Eye secret skill. After all, with its help, Jian Wushuang was always the first to discover exotic beasts in the past year. Now Jian Wushuang panicked, which meant he had seen something terrifying. Without hesitation, Jiao Zui, Ling Long, and Shui Jin immediately turned and ran like crazy. Shortly after the three of them turned and fled, they could see the exotic beast rampage. Oh my God! This. Why are there so many? Jiaozi, Ling Long, and Shui Jin were all dumbstruck. They all saw the countless exotic beasts behind them. There were a large number of exotic beasts in formidable formation. They saw no less than 100, and there were even more tall figures that were too hazy to see in the fog. There were many kinds of exotic beasts, many of which they had met in the past year, like huge one-eyed giants, evil exotic beasts with black scales all over them, and exotic beasts spreading out their wings like winged dragons, incredibly skilled in speed. Before, they had only come across the occasional exotic beast. At worst, only a few of them had gathered together, which they could still manage. But they had never seen such a terrifying rampage with so many exotic beasts. Who could stop this overwhelming amount of exotic beasts? The four of them were far from being able to fight so many. So, they could only escape. Run like crazy. Chapter 867, Trying Their Best. Chapter 867, Trying Their Best. The group fled like crazy, and the exotic beasts were charging quickly behind them. They had already discovered them. Many of the exotic beasts in the rampage hissed, and all of them were extremely excited. Many exotic beasts began to chase straight after them, and the particularly quick ones had bursts of astonishing speed. There were many kinds of exotic beasts in the stellar fog sea. There were a few clumsy exotic beasts such as one-eyed giants, and other kinds of exotic beasts with astonishing speed. When the four fled, they were very aware that the exotic beasts behind them were getting closer and closer. "These exotic beasts are so fast," Jian Wushuang said with a grave expression. "They're going to catch up soon. What should we do?" Ling Long was very worried. "Folks, you must have prepared some life-saving skills or trump cards when you knew you would go to explore the stellar fog sea, right?" Jian Wushuang looked around. "Yes." Ling Long nodded. "Yes, we have some life-saving skills." Jiao Zui and Shui Jin nodded. "Now, if the four of us continue running away together, we will be bound to die together, so we must scatter. Whether we can survive or not can only depend on our own abilities." Jian Wushuang licked his lips, his eyes serious. "Scatter?" Jiaozi, Ling Long and Shui Jin looked at each other with pained expressions. This stellar fog sea was full of fog, and it was a huge maze. Besides, when they entered the stellar fog sea, their message token was restricted and couldn't be used. Once the four of them separated, it would be impossible for them to get back together again. Worse still, the stellar fog sea was so dangerous that if they wandered around alone, except for Jian Wushuang, the chances of them surviving were probably not high. They would not scatter unless it was absolutely necessary. However, Jian Wushuang was right. Right now, if they did not scatter, all of them would die together. After they scattered, each one would depend on their own life-saving abilities, and perhaps one or two could successfully escape. "Okay, let's scatter." Jiao Zui simply nodded. "That's the only way we have now." Ling Long nodded. "Folks, I wish you all good luck," said Shui Jin solemnly. "Good luck," Jian Wushuang said likewise. After that, they scattered in four directions and fled. The exotic beast rampage immediately divided itself into four groups, each group chasing each person. Jian Wushuang was followed by a large number of exotic beasts, but he was looking to the side. He was looking in Ling Long's direction. Ling Long was running like crazy, but the exotic beasts behind her were getting closer and closer. "I'm finished." Ling Long's face turned pale and she was desperate. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Ling Long's life-saving ability is not bad, and she is fast. But the exotic beasts chasing her are similar to winged dragons and are extremely fast. I've experienced this before. As the group wandered around in the stellar fog sea, they had come across this kind of exotic beast. They were similar to winged dragons, and the speed they showed was quite surprising. If there was only one such exotic beast, it wouldn't be terrifying. But there were nearly 100 exotic beasts chasing Ling Long, including dozens of exotic beasts similar to winged dragons. At the thought of this, Jian Wushuang's eyes grew serious. He rummaged and took out a token. This token was the one that Xian Yi had given to him for saving his life. The token contained the Sunrise Sword Emperor's 3 sword essences. He had used his first sword essence when he killed Xia Yan, but now he began to guide the second one. Buzz! Under Jian Wushuang's guidance, a terrifying sword essence suddenly appeared in the voids. All of a sudden, the world changed. The second sword essence was several times stronger than the first one. Even if you were a genuine Dao Master expert, you would very likely be terrified if you saw this sword essence. Hardly had the sword essence emerged, Jian Wushuang directly guided it to fly in Ling Long's direction to attack. The tremendous sword essence pierced through the void and appeared behind Ling Long in a moment before it ruthlessly glided across the exotic beasts' bodies with overwhelming power. The sword essence was powerful, and the exotic beasts were only at the eternal realm. Therefore, it was really very easy to kill them. With Jian Wushuang's guidance, the sword essence glanced across all the exotic beasts, before its power finally dissipated completely. They were decapitated and crashed down like raindrops. Blood filled the void, turning the gray fog into a bloody red. Seeing what was happening behind her, Ling Long opened her eyes wide and then looked at Jian Wushuang. "Thank you." Ling Long uttered the two words soundlessly, but Jian Wushuang knew what she said. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly and looked in the directions of Jiao Zui and Shui Jin. He could no longer see Jiao Zui, but Shui Jin. What? Jian Wushuang's looked shocked. He could see that many of the beasts had caught up with Shui Jin and were surrounding Shui Jin. Although he fought desperately, he could not withstand the attack of so many exotic beasts at the same time. Just a moment later, Shui Jin was crushed by the beasts. Shui Jin is dead. Jian Wushuang was shocked, but he could do nothing but shake his head. I have done my best to help them. I can't do anything else. Whether each can escape this disaster and leave the stellar fog sea alive depends on their luck. Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. The four of them had come together to the stellar fog sea and took an adventure in the impasse for a year, so of course, they had formed a connection. If possible, Jian Wushuang would go to save them without hesitation. Even if it might cost him some trump cards, he would not regret it. However, in this predicament he could do nothing. Just as he had said before, in this kind of situation they could only rely on their own life-saving abilities. He thought no more of it. After all, the exotic beasts behind him had already caught up with him. He immediately took a deep breath and deployed his Dragon Blood secret skill. When Jian Wushuang deployed the second level of Dragon Blood secret skill, the spiritual power in his entire body began to burn wildly. His speed suddenly increased 100-fold, and soon he disappeared and the exotic beasts could no longer see him. Chapter 868, A Newcomer? Chapter 868, A Newcomer? It was in the depths of the stellar fog sea. Whoosh! A stream of light passed through the fog, and before long, it stopped in the void. Jian Wushuang heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that the exotic beasts were gone, and put away his Dragon Blood secret skill. The Dragon Blood secret skill increased his speed by burning his spiritual power, which would cost a lot. Although he had only used it for a short time, it already consumed nearly half of his spiritual power. But at least he got rid of those exotic beasts. The Dragon Blood secret skill that the master gave me is very unique. It saved my life at a critical moment. It's really great. Jian Wushuang thought. In fact, Jiao Zui, Ling Long and Shui Jin all had life-saving means, but unfortunately, they were not very useful in the crisis they had just had. I didn't expect that there would be such a terrifying exotic beast rampage in this stellar fog sea. There was a hint of terror in Jian Wushuang's eyes. No one except a Dao Master expert could fight against so many strong exotic beasts working together. Although Jian Wushuang was strong, he could only run for his life in the face of this kind of exotic beast rampage. Shui Jin is dead, and I don't know whether Jiao Zui and Ling Long can escape. I hope they will be lucky. Jian Wushuang sighed to himself. He lingered there for the time being. He began to take an elixir to restore his health and spiritual power. One day later, he had returned to his peak. From today, I can only rely on myself in the stellar fog siege. Looking around at the vast void enshrouded in a mass of gray fog, Jian Wushuang clenched his fists and set off to wander around alone. There was trouble everywhere in the stellar fog sea. The chance of an Eternal Realm expert being killed was too high if he wandered around alone in the stellar fog sea. If he came across some vicious exotic beasts, he might not be able to get away. Jiao Zui and Ling Long had good strength, but the chances of them surviving were extremely low if they wandered around alone in the stellar fog sea. But Jian Wushuang was different. He was the strongest among the four of them, and he could easily kill a common exotic beast. Even if he came across a few exotic beasts at the same time, he could kill them by virtue of his ninth heaven sword formation. If he bumped into another rampage, he could also escape with his Dragon Blood secret skill. He was extremely capable of surviving in the stellar fog sea. He was still wandering around the boundless stellar fog sea. If he ran into an exotic beast, he would make his move and use it to hone his swordsmanship. He had no idea when he could reach the end or walk out of this stellar fog sea. He only knew that the stronger he was, the higher his chance of surviving was. 2 years flew by. Adding together these 2 years and the year he wandered around with the other 3, Jian Wushuang had been in the stellar fog sea for 3 years. Jian Wushuang was wearing a scarlet robe which was his blood eagle armor, and carrying a long sword on his back as he walked slowly through the foggy void. Ha! Jian Wushuang stopped abruptly and looked straight ahead with the blood-red eye between his eyebrows. An island was in sight, floating in the void. The island was so huge that he could not see all of it with his naked eye. He felt the island had a strong and magnificent aura. He was very familiar with these auras. They were not the violent auras of those exotic beasts, but the spiritual power auras of human experts. There are people. Jian Wushuang was delighted, and he darted straight towards the floating island. The edge of the island was completely paved with jade, and on it lay a chubby, bald teenager, half-drunk, with a jug in his hand, his eyes blurred and his face flushed. Whoosh! A scarlet-robed figure suddenly appeared beside him. The bald teenager noticed and looked up to cast a glance at the figure, but what he saw was a very strange face. At the sight of this strange face, the bald, blurry-eyed teenager suddenly became sober. His body shook, and the smell of wine vanished in a moment as he quickly got up. You are a newcomer? Ha! The bald teenager looked at Jian Wushuang with burning eyes. Newcomer? Jian Wushuang frowned, but did not answer. But the bald teenager had apparently already decided Jian Wushuang was a newcomer. He shouted, Quick, come quick, there is a newcomer. The bald teenager had a loud, sonorous voice, ringing throughout almost half of the island. Hearing the shouting, this island that had been floating in quiet for many years was instantly in a state of commotion. Ha! There is a newcomer. How long has it been? 3,000 years? There is a newcomer at long last. The last newcomer who came here seemed to be called Hei Qi, and he had good strength. But he was too stubborn to believe that people can't leave the stellar fog sea. He left us soon after he came to the island, and he has probably been killed by those exotic beasts by now. Ha! It's a rare newcomer. We should take good care of this young man. A lot of voices sounded from all directions and a lot of people were quickly rushing over. Just moments later, hundreds of people had appeared around Jian Wushuang. They surrounded him, and he was in the center. They all looked at him with burning eyes. These people? Jian Wushuang looked at these human warriors with a frown. He could feel that the auras of these people were particularly strong. They were all in the eternal realm, and most of them were at peak eternal realm. But what concerned him most was the way these people looked at him. Their eyes were burning. They were like beggars who had been hungry for several days and had just seen a delicious chicken leg. Such hot gaze made Jian Wushuang extremely uncomfortable. Hey, this kid looks really handsome. Among the crowd, a burly man stuck his tongue out, licked his lips, and stared at Jian Wushuang with hot eyes. Let's follow the old rules. I'm first, the burly man said to the others. He then stood up. Brat, fight with me. If you win, no one on the island will make things hard for you. But if you lose, then you have to hand over all of your treasures. In addition, you will have to make tea, beat our legs and serve us for the next 1,000 years. The burly man wore a grim smile. Chapter 869, Star Island. Chapter 869, Star Island. Serve you? Jian Wushuang's eyes grew serious. He could feel the filthy meaning hidden in the burly man's eyes when he said those words. This guy, resentment suddenly surged in Jian Wushuang's heart. Let's get started, the burly man said. He immediately took out a pair of gloves and put them on. All the people nearby sensibly retreated. The burly man stared at Jian Wushuang and suddenly grinned before he charged like a matchless, fierce beast. Whoosh! He instantly appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. With his fist, surrounded by a faint flame, he struck him. Jian Wushuang looked serious and did not dare to do anything careless. He turned into a gold-armored ancient god instantly and the Blood Mountain sword appeared in his hand. Bursts of power emanated from the Blood Mountain sword. Jian Wushuang violently hacked at his opponent, and his sword collided head-on with the burly man's fist. Bang! With a bang, Jian Wushuang was forced to take a few steps back. He's so strong. Jian Wushuang was shocked. The burly man's strength was indeed remarkable. During these 2 years in the stellar fog sea, Jian Wushuang had bumped into many exotic beasts. Some of them had strength as their best skills, but they were still a little weaker than this burly man. This burly man was not only strong, but he also had a highly accomplished fighting technique. One punch after another, he violently attacked Jian Wushuang, and his essence kept changing. Sometimes his fist was as swift as thunder, sometimes it was as hot as fire, and sometimes it came down like a mountain. Jian Wushuang deployed his full swordsmanship, and it burst out as he spared no effort to fight against the burly man. But because of his inferior strength, he was forced to continue retreating backward. "Ha boy, is this all the strength you have?" The burly man looked ferocious. "Humph," Jian Wushuang grunted. The next moment, sword shadows floated out of his interspatial ring. There were 36 long swords. "What is this?" The burly man looked confused. "Merge." Jian Wushuang controlled the swords. In a second, the 36 blood sky swords formed a 20-meter-long scarlet longsword from which amazing strong power burst out. The power was so strong that all the experts were amazed as they watched the battle. "Go!" Jian Wushuang roared. This scarlet longsword instantly flitted, attacking. It was so fast as it streaked across the void. "What's this?" The burly man was still in a daze, but the scarlet sword had already passed through his neck. "Ha!" The burly man's head flew off and the power bursting out from the long sword went into his body and shattered his life core. Jian Wushuang showed no mercy to such filthy people like the burly man. He deployed his 9th heaven sword formation and killed the man, which greatly stunned the surrounding experts. So strong. What was that? Was it a sword formation? The sword formation was so formidable that even Mo couldn't withstand it, and he was instantly killed. This newcomer is very strong. The experts looked at Jian Wushuang with a hint of terror. In this world, no matter where you were, experts were always respected. So it was on the island. Just then, the burly man's corpse began to move. Only a moment later, his head rejoined his body. "Damn it, is this brat so strong?" The burly man stared at Jian Wushuang as he roared. "How is it possible?" Jian Wushuang looked shocked. He had clearly killed this burly man and even crushed his life core, but he did not die. "Newcomer, since you are so strong, you don't need to serve us. Do whatever you want to do." The burly man snorted before he turned and left. The experts who had been staring at Jian Wushuang with burning eyes all grew serious and turned to leave one by one. They were still talking as they left. "This newcomer has a really awesome strength. He actually defeated Mo. In my opinion, with his strength, he should be able to pass the first test." "The first test? It's very likely. It seems that we will soon have the 13th Heavenly King on our star island. I thought he would be a plaything. Who knew he would be as tough as iron?" People scattered as they whispered, leaving only Jian Wushuang and the bald teenager who had found Jian Wushuang in the first place and asked people to come. "Newcomer, I thought that you would be very unlucky, and I did not expect you to be so strong. You even killed Mo." The bald teenager looked at Jian Wushuang with a smile. "What the hell is going on? And where am I?" asked Jian Wushuang with a frown. "Don't worry, let's get to know each other first. I'm Chen Yu, and you?" asked the bald teenager. "Blood Mountain." Jian Wushuang simply said his alias as usual. "Blood Mountain?" Chen Yu nodded slightly, and then said, "Let me tell you something. The place where you are now is called Star Island. It is the core of the stellar fog sea." "Star Island?" Jian Wushuang frowned. The core of the stellar fog sea was actually a huge floating island. "Of course, it cannot be said to be an island here as much as a large prison," said Chen Yu. "Prison?" Jian Wushuang was in a daze. "Yes, prison. Stellar fog sea is the second impasse recognized by the eternal world, but it isn't naturally formed. It's artificially created," said Chen Yu. "Artificially created?" Jian Wushuang was shocked. This vast and mysterious stellar fog sea had existed in the eternal world for countless years. The second impasse, which so many top-class experts had no way of spying on, was artificially created. How could it be possible? Who has such great ability to create this stellar fog sea? Jian Wushuang kept shaking his head. I was just as shocked as you when I first came to the Star Island and learned the secret of the stellar fog sea. Qian Yu saw the shock on Jian Wushuang's face and was not surprised. He continued, but it is true that the stellar fog sea was created by a genuine almighty. The whole stellar fog sea is, in fact, a huge spell formation. This spell formation hinders all the experts above Dao Master, as well as some doppelgangers. In addition, it also makes it impossible for thousands of Eternal Realm experts to leave the stellar fog sea. And the core of the spell formation is Star Island. Chapter 870, The Prison. Chapter 870, The Prison. Jian Wushuang was stupefied by what Qian Yu had said. Which almighty power had such earth-shaking skills that he could create such a huge stellar fog sea and limit the entry of so many experts of the eternal world above Dao Master level? The stellar fog sea is full of exotic beasts and various dangers, but the core, Star Island, is the only safe place in the entire fog sea. If the experts who enter the sea and wander around are lucky enough, they will arrive at this Star Island. There were 636 people on Star Island. With you, the number is 667 now, said Qian Yu. 636? Such a large number? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Is it? Qian Yu laughed. Blood Mountain, do you know how long ago the stellar fog sea was created? Jian Wushuang shook his head without thinking. It must have been there for at least millions of years, I dare not say any more. And during this long period, some experts took the initiative to enter the stellar fog sea to look for opportunities, and some were driven to the wall by their enemies and could only escape into the stellar fog sea to try their luck. How many people do you think that would be in total? Qian Yu grinned. That number would be terrifying. But once they enter the stellar fog sea, they will only have two possible endings. One ending is for those with bad luck. They will wander around the stellar fog sea and be killed when they run into exotic beasts or some other trouble. The other ending is for those with good luck like us, who come to this Star Island and live here for good after a long period of wandering. Since ancient times, so many experts have entered the stellar fog sea. But only 600 people were lucky enough to reach Star Island. Is that a large number? It's in fact very, very small. The vast majority of people have been killed by the exotic beasts while wandering in the stellar fog sea. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang nodded to himself. Indeed, if these people on Star Island were all the experts who had survived in the stellar fog sea for thousands of years, then just over 600 people was indeed a pitifully small number. We were lucky enough to get to Star Island and survive, but in fact, it is better to die than to live here, said Qian Yu. It is better to die than to live? Jian Wushuang was in a daze. Blood Mountain, I just said that Star Island is a huge prison. Although it can guarantee our lives as long as we stay here, it is perpetually enshrouded in darkness, and we have little to no chance of leaving, Qian Yu explained. The long years are so boring, dull and dark. This kind of day is basically torture to human beings. Many people can't stand this kind of boring life. They would rather leave Star Island to wander in the fog sea and die at last than stay here. Besides, there are some people who have been trapped on Star Island for millions of years and their minds have long been completely warped. They become crazy, so most people on the island are maniacs. Like Mo with whom you just fought. I heard that when he entered Star Island, he was quite a decent man. After being trapped for 1,000,000 years on this island, he has become crazy and evil. Whenever a newcomer arrives, he will come out. If the newcomer is strong, nothing bad will happen. If not, he will be tortured and even ravaged. After all, Star Island is very special. On this island, people can't die. No matter how a person is tortured, he will not die. Can't die. Jian Wushuang was in a daze. I have just... He had clearly crushed Shermo's life core, but he did not die. Yes, you couldn't kill Shermo, not because of his special skill but because of the peculiarity of Star Island. There is a special restriction here. Once someone's life is in danger, the restriction will be activated to protect his life, said Qian Yu. Oh. Jian Wushuang nodded slightly as the questions on his mind were finally answered. Blood Mountain, you have just arrived at Star Island, so this place is still new to you. And there are some pretty good opportunities here. So you will not find it dull for 100,000 years, but after a few million years, you will be just like us. Qian Yu's face was full of confusion and despair. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank and he asked, is there really no possibility of leaving this stellar fog sea? Not exactly. If there weren't any possibility, the people on the island would have died in the fog sea long ago. Who would want to stay here and live this dull, miserable life? Qian Yu smiled faintly. However, the possibility is too low. It's negligible. Since the stellar fog sea was created, so many people have come to Star Island. But only one person has ever left alive. Someone left alive? Jian Wushuang's eyes became bright and he quickly asked, who was it? He was called Star King. He left 4 million years ago. Star King? Jian Wushuang frowned. He had never heard of an expert in the eternal world named Star King. Besides, he had never heard of someone leaving the stellar fog sea alive. But what had happened to Star King? Qian Yu, how can we leave here? Jian Wushuang continued to ask. There are 2 ways to leave here. The first one is to pass the tests set by Lord Spirit Sound. Lord Spirit Sound? Jian Wushuang was curious. Lord Spirit Sound is the servant of the Almighty who created the stellar fog sea. She controls Star Island. There's a black tower on the island and there are 3 tests to pass there. If you can pass these 3 tests, Lord Spirit Sound will let you go, said Qian Yu. It's that simple? Jian Wushuang was astonished. Simple? Qian Yu sneered. Blood Mountain, you have never experienced the 3 difficult tests. There are so many experts on the island and most of them are at the peak of the eternal realm. But do you know how many experts have passed the first test? How many? Jian Wushuang looked at Qian Yu. 12, only 12. Qian Yu said in a solemn voice, these 12 people are called the 12 heavenly kings. All of them are top geniuses. 11 of them could only pass the first test, and there was only one who could pass the second test. And the reason why this one could pass the second test is that after he passed the first test he had the opportunity to cultivate his secret skill on Star Island and greatly improve his strength. As for the third test, no one has passed it but Star King 4 million years ago. Chapter 871, Lord Spirit Sound. Chapter 871, Lord Spirit Sound. Hearing what Qian Yu said, Jian Wushuang's expression turned solemn. Never mind. It's useless to talk about all these now. I will take you to the Black Tower. You will get it when you try it yourself over there. Qian Yu looked at Jian Wushuang. Just follow me. Jian Wushuang followed Qian Yu towards the interior of Star Island without any hesitation. Under the guidance of Qian Yu, Jian Wushuang reached the foot of several huge dark towers after a while. Jian Wushuang looked at those pure black towers in front of him. They should be the towers that Qian Yu had mentioned, but there were 4 towers. And their positions were so weird. 3 of them stood side by side, but another tower was rooted on the steps behind the 3 ones, which looked taller and bigger. Blood Mountain, the tests in the black towers are divided based on the realm of testes. The first 3 towers correspond relatively to Divine Realm, Eternal Realm and Tao Master Realm. Your realm decides which black tower you should enter to be tested. Qian Yu said, there is a black tower for Tao Masters? What is it for? Isn't it said that Tao Masters are not allowed to enter into the stellar fog sea? Jian Wushuang could not help but ask. You're right. There is no entry for Tao Masters. But what if the test he breaks through the realm of Tao Master after entering stellar fog sea? Qian Yu gave a smile. Jian Wushuang was dumbstruck. Yes, only Tao Masters had no access to the stellar fog sea. However, if the testee broke through the realm of Tao Master inside Stellar Fog Sea, such as on the Star Island, it could make sense. Qianyu, you mean there are Tao Masters on this Star Island? Jian Wushuang asked in surprise. Of course. There is more than one Tao Master. Qianyu cracked a smile. There are 5 Tao Masters on this Star Island. They all broke through the realm of Tao Master after entering Stellar Fog Sea, but they are unable to leave if they failed the test. Is it so? Jian Wushuang nodded and looked up at the taller black tower behind the 3 black towers. According to what you said, the first 3 black towers correspond to Divine Realm, Eternal Realm, and Tao Master Realm. How about the 4th tower? Which realm is it for? Jian Wushuang asked. I don't know. Qianyu shook his head. Except for Lord Spirit Sound, no one knows who can receive the test in the 4th black towers. I only know that the 5 Tao Masters on Star Island are not qualified to get into that black tower. The Lord Spirit Sound once said that whoever passes the test in the 4th black tower will be the owner of Stellar Fog Sea and has the right to control everything in Stellar Fog Sea. At that time, for people like us who are trapped here, our life and death will depend on the owner-to-be's decision. If he is kind-hearted enough, he will release us. If he is black-heart, however, we may get killed directly, remain trapped, or even become his slaves. Anyway, everything is possible. Qianyu said casually, but he was already desolate. Jian Wushuang nodded thoughtfully and then he walked towards the far left black tower. Blood Mountain, you went the wrong way. This tower is to test Divine Realm experts. The one next to it is for the Eternal Realm. Qianyu reminded him. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang gave a smile but did not stop. Took the wrong way. He was a Divine Realm expert. So it was well reasoned to take the test in the Black Tower directed for Divine Realm experts. Jian Wushuang came to the front of the Black Tower and prepared to set feet on the steps. However, a strong gust of resistance made him unable to move forward. How could it be? Jian Wushuang paled. He was a god and there should be no doubt that he took the test for Divine Realm experts. Why was he impeded? Is it because I used the yin-yang mirror to conceal the aura? Jian Wushuang thought. His aura was hidden by the yin-yang mirror all the time, so Qianyu had said he took the wrong way. Jian Wushuang immediately manipulated and stopped the control of his aura by the yin-yang mirror. His aura as a Divine Realm expert became visible. Even so, Jian Wushuang was still unable to take one step forward. He had no access to this Black Tower for Divine Realm experts. What's the matter? Jian Wushuang felt confused. At this time, young boy, don't waste your time. You can't get into this Black Tower. A cold voice raised from somewhere. Jian Wushuang looked back at the source of the voice at once. A good-looking and enchanting red-robed woman came over slowly. Qianyu was shocked when he saw the woman, and then he immediately bent down to salute, "My lord, at your service." Lord? Jian Wushuang was surprised. The woman in front of them was the Lord Spirit Sound, the master of Star Island. You may leave. Lord Spirit Sound glanced at Qianyu. Qianyu nodded reverently without any resistance and left directly. In front of the Black Tower, there were only Jian Wushuang and Lord Spirit Sound. What's your name? Lord Spirit Sound looked at Jian Wushuang. Blood Mountain, Jian Wushuang answered. Blood Mountain. I believe you have known my identity and the rules of our Star Island from Qianyu? Lord Spirit Sound asked. Yes. Jian Wushuang replied. Good. No matter who comes to Star Island, he must follow my rules with no exception. Since you are here, you only have 2 choices. One choice is to be trapped here forever just like other people. The other choice is to make a breakthrough in this Black Tower. If you pass the test, I will set you free and give you some opportunities. Lord Spirit Sound said. I get it. Jian Wushuang slightly nodded and then he asked, Lord Spirit Sound, as you see, I'm a Divine Realm expert. But why can't I get into the Black Tower for Divine Realm experts? Well, we all know you are a real Divine Realm expert. But more than that, you have another identity. Lord Spirit Sound gave a wee smile, and then she said very slowly, you are an inverse cultivator. Jian Wushuang was so stunned. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed, an unexpected sense of panic and terror overwhelmed him. He was an exact inverse cultivator. But only he and his friend, Emperor Shao, knew about this. Other than that, no one should know about it. But now, this Lord Spirit Sound had pointed out he was an inverse cultivator at first sight. Chapter 872, Inverse Cultivations. Chapter 872, Inverse Cultivation. So, I guess you are wondering how I can tell who you are. The Lord Spirit Sound stared at Jian Wushuang. Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded. He really had no idea how could she know about it. To be frank, it's very easy for me, Lord Spirit Sound said with an easy smile. For every warrior, there is a limitation at each realm. A divine realm expert has a limitation on how high strength can go, as does an eternal realm expert. A divine realm expert can only reach step 5 of the eternal realm, no matter how powerful he is. That is his limitation. It's impossible for an ordinary warrior to improve their battle strength as long once it reaches step 5. Even if he obtains an extraordinary opportunity or secret skill that can enhance his strength, the strength he can exert will still remain at step 5. This is the limitation placed on warriors by the heavenly laws. In this world, only one group of people can break free from this limitation. They are inverse cultivators. After that, Lord Spirit Sound paused for a moment, then she continued, inverse cultivators defy the heavens, so the heavenly laws are useless against them. But you, as a divine realm expert, should be clear about what level your battle strength has reached. Is that so? Jian Wushuang was surprised. Indeed, his battle strength was much stronger than any other divine realm expert. This was the main benefit in cultivating the heavenly creation skill. In reference to heaven-defying 4 steps, he had reached the second step, the deification realm, which meant his battle strength had no limitations. His current strength was already higher than a divine realm expert should be able to possess, but he was still able to improve his strength. There are only a few inverse cultivators in this world. I went on many adventures while following my lord for so many years, but only saw 2 inverse cultivators. So, I know a little about inverse cultivation. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to recognize your identity. The Lord Spirit Sound smiled. After hearing her words, Jian Wushuang understood. He had been in Eternal World for quite a while now, and he had even met some Dao Masters, including Empress Lung, who was a peak Dao Master. Empress Lung had been able to perceive that he was a divine realm expert, but had no idea that he was an inverse cultivator. Apparently, Empress Ling knew nothing about inverse cultivation. But this Lord Spirit Sound in front of him could tell that he was as an inverse cultivator because she had seen inverse cultivators before when she was adventuring with her lord, the person who had created the stellar fog sea. Lord Spirit Sound, I am indeed an inverse cultivator, but why can't I enter the Black Tower for divine realm experts? Is there any relation? Jian Wushuang asked. Absolutely. The Lord Spirit Sound smiled and said, because inverse cultivators defy the heavens, their strength is much powerful than normal. That allows them to take rank-skipping challenges. So, the experts in this world already reached a consensus that an inverse cultivator would be counted as being 1 realm higher. That is to say, an inverse cultivator in the divine realm will be treated as an eternal realm expert. So, an inverse cultivator in the eternal realm will be treated as a Dao Master. You are an inverse cultivator in the divine realm, so I will regard you as an eternal realm expert rather than a divine realm expert. That means you will not be able to access the Black Tower that tests divine realm experts. You have to head to the Black Tower that tests eternal realm experts if you want to try. After saying this, Lord Spirit Sound paused, but then she said with interest, in truth, you should be glad that you are only a divine realm expert. Since you are a divine realm expert, you have a good chance of passing the test and getting out of here given enough time. But if you had reached the eternal realm, you would have to take the test for Dao Masters. It is more difficult than the test for eternal realm experts. If that happened, I'm afraid that you would be trapped here forever like some of the others on this island. Upon hearing this, Jian Wushuang felt a chill. She was right. If what Lord Spirit Sound said was true, an inverse cultivator in the Eternal Realm would take the test for Tao Masters. However, the test was so difficult that he might be unable to pass it within 30,000 years or even 3 million years. Needless to say, he planned to leave within 300 years. It's quite fortunate that I did not make a breakthrough. In that case, I truly would be miserable, Jian Wushuang thought. Well, that's all there is to say. It's time to see for yourself, the Lord Spirit Sound said, and then disappeared in a flash. Jian Wushuang stood alone in front of the Black Tower with his hands clenched. I don't have much time, only 300 years. Within that time limit, I have to find the Dragon Phoenix fruit and figure out a way to leave this place. There's no time to delay. Jian Wushuang looked up at the Black Tower for Eternal Realm experts and walked straight towards it without hesitation. Just as expected, Jian Wushuang smoothly entered the tower without any trouble. There were 3 levels in this tower, with 1 test on each level. For now, Jian Wushuang was on the first level. As soon as he entered the first level, Jian Wushuang immediately saw a burly figure quietly standing there. A familiar feeling arose from Jian Wushuang's heart when he saw that figure. It's him? Jian Wushuang looked up and his expression became a little weird. This burly figure was the human-shaped monster that he killed with Jiuzui and the other 2. He was also the first enemy that they encountered in the Stellar Fog Sea. Boy, this blood demon will be your first opponent in the Black Tower. As long as you can beat him, you will have passed this test. The voice of Lord Spirit Sound suddenly echoed in Jian Wushuang's mind. Beat him? As Jian Wushuang stared at the burly figure, a serious expression quickly appeared on his face. Blood demon? Jian Wushuang muttered to himself, it seems I guessed right. He is a puppet fighter that was refined using a special method, so he's very different from ordinary puppet fighters. He had seen the blood demon's strength before. This blood demon possessed incredible strength, speed, defense, and saber technique. It could be said that he had no weakness from head to toe. He was definitely a human-shaped monster. At that time, he had teamed up with Jiuzui, Ling Long and Shui Jin in a fierce battle with the blood demon, but failed to defeat him. Finally, it was Jian Wushuang who killed the blood demon with the 9th Heaven Sword formation. But obviously, that blood demon was not the only one. Chapter 873 Blood Demon. Chapter 873 Blood Demon. Inside the first level of the Black Tower, Jian Wushuang and the blood demon stared at each other from a distance. Jian Wushuang had turned into a gold-armored ancient god and had his blood mountain sword in hand. Previously, the 4 of us failed to defeat him, but now it's only me. However, I am much stronger now than I was before. A light flashing in Jian Wushuang's eyes and he stepped forward aggressively. Swoosh! He shot forward like an arrow. Jian Wushuang moved at an amazing speed, appearing directly in front of the blood demon while slashing out with his blood mountain sword at the same time. The blood demon pulled out a hulking saber on his back immediately and hacked it like a thunderbolt. They too bumped into each other, causing a violent clash. Jian Wushuang felt his arm was numb, a violet power rushing toward him, which made him stand back out of control. His power is really strong. Jian Wushuang sighed with emotion. Speaking of strength, Jiuzui's strongest shot was well matched with the blood demon's blow. But now it was impossible for Jian Wushuang to defeat the blood demon only by right of his swordsmanship if he did not exert 9th Heaven Sword formation. Since I can't defeat him in strength, I can pin my hope on the killing skill. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold, his swordsmanship exploding directly. His swordsmanship was sometimes quick and violent like a thunderbolt, sometimes soft and durable, just like a ball of cotton. Jian Wushuang put his swordsmanship into full play as well as the close killing skill. However, the blood demon showed a very horrible saber technique. His close offensive ability was on a par with Jian Wushuang. Clang, 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 clang. With several sounds of weapons colliding against, Jian Wushuang was powerless to beat back all the time. Since the blood demon's strength was extremely overwhelming, Jian Wushuang's palm was shocked to bleed, and his blood was rolling up. I can't defeat him. I really fall behind him in strength, although we are well matched on other aspects. Jian Wushuang shook his head. He had planned to battle with the blood demon by his swordsmanship. It was obvious, however, that the blood demon was much more powerful than him. What I can rely on is ninth heaven sword formation. A light flashing in Jian Wushuang's eyes, he took the opportunity to step back after another collision with the blood demon. In the meanwhile, sword shadows outburst from his interspatial ring. Condense! As Jian Wushuang said a word, 36 blood sky swords appeared and rushed to form a scarlet longsword at a quick speed, radiating a terrifying aura. Go! A gleam of killing intent jumped in Jian Wushuang's eyes, and then the scarlet longsword shot up like a streak of lightning. It was so quick that no shadow of it left in the air. The blood demon was rushing to Jian Wushuang and tried to kill him at one stroke. As a falch of blood shadow flitted unexpectedly, he had no time to withstand but beheaded by the shadow. Seeing this, Jian Wushuang showed a slight smile, and then he recalled the scarlet longsword and his interspatial ring. Ooh! Jian Wushuang breathed a sigh of relief, looked at the blood demon. No wonder only 12 kings among so many Eternal Realm experts on Star Island can break through this level. This blood demon is really strong. Jian Wushuang had to admit this. The blood demon was indeed mighty. The blood demon was absolutely a nightmare for Eternal Realm experts. The ordinary testes, even those with strong power, in the 6th step of the Eternal Realm would definitely get killed by the blood demon in a one-on-one battle. Only those authentic Eternal Realm monsters were able to overcome the blood demon. Jian Wushuang was destined to be overwhelmed by the blood demon without the help of ninth heaven sword formation. But now it was easy for him to kill the blood demon with the formation. This ninth heaven sword formation is known as the strongest sword formation in the Eternal World. It really makes great difference in battle if I deploy it. Jian Wushuang spoke to himself. Jian Wushuang quickly came to the level 2 of the Black Tower after past the level 1. What Jian Wushuang saw here was still a blood demon. What's wrong? Another blood demon. Jian Wushuang frowned, looked at the robust figure in front of him, who was almost the same as the blood demon that he had killed in the level 1. Blood Mountain, now you're in the level 2 of the Black Tower. Just like the level 1, all you need to do is to defeat the blood demon in front of you. But I have to remind you, the blood demon in the level 1 and the one in the Frog Sea are low-graded blood demons. This one in front of you is a high-class blood demon. The Lord Spirit Sound's voice lingered in Jian Wushuang's heart once again. Obviously, the Lord Spirit Sound witnessed what Jian Wushuang had gone through in the Black Tower. High-class blood demon? A dark cloud cast over Jian Wushuang's face. Only the lowest blood demon was strong enough to engulf most Eternal Realm experts. How powerful the high-class blood demon was. Jian Wushuang learned his strength soon. Jian Wushuang directly displayed ninth heaven sword formation rather than trying to fiercely battle with the high-class blood demon in the beginning, since he fully aware that this blood demon was much stronger. Whoosh! The scarlet longsword formed by the 36 blood sky swords shot out to the high-class blood demon with a terrifying strong power. It traveled at a stunning speed as before. Jian Wushuang had just beheaded the low-grade blood demon by this move in the level 1. But now his opponent was a high-class blood demon, so... The moment the scarlet longsword had outburst, the high-class blood demon brandished his bulky saber at will. Clang! A metallic clash came out. As the high-class blood demon hacked his saber at the scarlet longsword, breaking forth an irrumpent power, which shuttered the scarlet longsword and disintegrated it at the next moment. What? After seeing that, Jian Wushuang was completely slack-jawed. The ninth heaven sword formation was valuable in speed. The low-grade blood demon had had no time to react but had been directly killed by it. But this high-class blood demon managed to hold off the ninth heaven sword formation. More than that, he even broke down the ninth heaven sword formation. How powerful was he? Boom! After disintegrated Jian Wushuang's ninth heaven sword formation, the high-class blood demon stamped his foot, smashing the ground, and then his bulky body appeared in front of Jian Wushuang in no time. Chapter 874, Opportunity. Chapter 874, Opportunity. Boom! A powerful aura rolled up an overwhelming hurricane and engulfed Jian Wushuang. Damn it! Jian Wushuang's face turned pale since he found it was too late to contend against if he regrouped the 9th Heaven Sword formation. He had to exert his strongest move with the Blood Mountain Sword. This was the 4th move of the Boundless Heaven Sword art that he studied carefully for years. As for Boundless Heaven Sword art, one move was stronger than another. The 4th move was stronger than the 3rd one. The high-class Blood Demon slashed out his outrageous saber. Bang! The power exploded with a thud. An incredible power sprayed to Jian Wushuang and made his hands quivered. Thereupon his Blood Mountain Sword was compelled to fly off from his hand. Whereafter, the high-class Blood Demon brandished the saber and chopped Jian Wushuang to death only in 1 second. But because of the special restriction, nobody would lose his life on Star Island. Therefore, Jian Wushuang quickly repaired his body and appeared outside the Black Tower. Stood at the foot of the Black Tower, Jian Wushuang looked up at it and still felt a little scared. Too powerful. The high-class Blood Demon was dozens of times stronger than the low-grade Blood Demon at least. He smashed my 9th Heaven Sword formation just by one blow and vibrated my long sword away by another blow, and finally he killed me. So horrible. He is much more stronger than me. Jian Wushuang showed a startled expression. He had thought that few people could overcome him since his current strength was at the peak of the Eternal Realm. But now, only a special puppet fighter easily triumphed over him. He could recognize that the puppet fighter was only in the Eternal Realm, far away from the realm of Tao Master, but outclassed him so much. This high-class Blood Demon is more powerful than me. I have to reach the 5th level on Sword Heart if I want to contend against him. Furthermore, I need master the 9th Heaven Sword formation better. Jian Wushuang thought. There were much room for his improvement in strength. He had reached the peak of level 4 on Sword Heart, only 1 step away from level 5. His strength would skyrocket as soon as he reached the level 5. In addition, he was unable to give full play to the 9th Heaven Sword formation in that he only mastered it at the preliminary stage. The 9th Heaven Sword formation contained 3 formations. The first sword formation, Traceless Sword, had costed him much time and energy to study. Jian Wushuang just started to master this heavy sword formation. His achievement was only in the initial realm according to the division of realm. There was a long way to go before he reached the profound realm, let alone the exceptional realm. With regard to the second sword formation, it was totally vain for him. If he reached the level 5 on Sword Heart and the profound realm on the first step of 9th Heaven Sword formation, he was qualified to battle with the high-class Blood Demon. Of course, it was still hard to say whether he could defeat his opponent. However, I still have the chance to break through the level 2 test. Jian Wushuang was confident of himself. Blood Mountain. As a voice emerged, the bald teenager, Qian Yu, who had talked to Jian Wushuang a lot, walked towards him. How's it going? Not bad. I broke through the level 1, but get killed in the level 2. Jian Wushuang answered. Broke through the level 1? Qian Yu looked at Jian Wushuang in amazement and then he laughed. Ha! Only 12 kings on Star Island passed the level 1. You're the 13th. 12 kings has become the 13 kings. Let's go. Let me take you around the Star Island. Just let them envy. Qian Yu was going to take Jian Wushuang away in excitement. It was so fevered for them to flaunt something since they had been trapped on Star Island for so many years. But Jian Wushuang shook his head. There's no need. Qian Yu, you told me there is some opportunity on Star Island? That's for sure. Qian Yu nodded. These opportunities are unusual. Just because of them, people like me who are locked up here have a little hope to leave. Without them, it's impossible for us to pass the tests in Black Tower if only depends on our efforts. Jian Wushuang agreed. Only the level 2 of Black Tower was too difficult to break through, much less the level 3. Without the assistance of opportunity, It was hopeless to pass the test only by virtue of their aimless and individual studying. There are two kinds of opportunities on Star Island: Star Jade Wall and 9 secret skills. Qian Yu began to narrate. Everyone can possess Star Jade Wall. People like us who have nothing important to do will go to cultivate under the Star Jade Wall. As for the other opportunity, 9 secret skills, it has many limitations. The Lord Spirit Sound made a rule that only those who have broken the Level 1 test are qualified to cultivate the 9 secret skills. That means only 12 kings are eligible to cultivate. But they are only allowed to select 1 secret skill to cultivate. And Dao Masters are also able to select 1 secret skill to cultivate. Like the 5 Dao Masters on Star Island, they all cultivate 1 secret skill. There is few chance to pass the test when they were in the Eternal Realm. So 4 of them chose to reach the Dao Master Realm when occasion served in order to get a chance to leave by virtue of the cultivation of 9 secret skills. Get a chance? Jian Wushuang was confused. Blood Mountain. Let me tell you. Although the test to Eternal Realm is hard enough, there is still a little hope. The strongest king among the 12 kings already passed the Level 2 test, not far away from getting through the Level 3 test. But the test to Dao Masters is much more difficult than that to the Eternal Realm. Even the 5 Dao Masters on Star Island, who have cultivated one of the 9 secret skills, failed to pass the Level 1 test. So you can imagine how difficult it is. Qian Yu said. Chapter 875, Star Jade Wall. Chapter 875, Star Jade Wall. It's nearly impossible to pass the Dao Master level test. Therefore, even though strong enough to break through to Dao Master, some eternal realms on the Star Island keep suppressing their realm to maintain in the Eternal Realm, Qian Yu said. Suppressing their realm? Jian Wushuang was shocked to hear that. He knew about that. However, who would suppress their realm on purpose? Everyone wanted to be the best. The stronger, the better. As far as I estimate, there are at least 10 among the 12 kings who are able to break through to Dao Master. They just keep suppressing it and taking the Eternal Realm level test, Qian Yu continued. As regards to the 5 Dao Masters, they couldn't pass the first level test when they were in Eternal Realm. Actually, they were way too far from passing that. Therefore, they chose to break through to Dao Master so that they could at least learn the top 9 secret skills earlier. I see, Jian Wushuang nodded. Since it was impossible to pass the Eternal Realm level test, they turned to break through to Dao Master instead for a bold try by cultivating the strongest secret skills. Never mind. There's no need to talk about this. I will show you the 2 opportunity lands so you can see by yourself, Qian Yu said, leading Jian Wushuang towards another direction. They arrived in a group of pavilions soon. There were more than 10 pavilions jamming together. Each of them was very vast but not tall. Here is where the Star Jade Wall located, one of the 2 opportunity lands of Star Island. Qian Yu pointed at the pavilions and introduced, the Star Jade Walls were in those pavilions and differentiated. There are Jade Walls focusing on Sword Principle, Saber Principle, Spear Principle, Axe Principle, and so on. You are good at Sword Principle, so you might need the Sword Principle Jade Walls. Jian Wushuang nodded. They are over there. Let me show you. Qian Yu took Jian Wushuang to one pavilion. It was an open broad hall with some people in it. They were all sitting cross-legged on the ground and looking at the jade walls on both sides of the hall. It seemed that they were completely enchanted in that. Jian Wushuang looked over too. The walls on both sides of the hall were paved with jades, forming 2 giant jade walls. There were some lifelike patterns carved on them. Each pattern showed a person wielding a long sword. They just looked identical, nothing different. However, there were 16 of them on the jade walls. Blood Mountain, here is the Star Jade Wall. The patterns on the jade walls contains profound opportunities. It seems like they are identical at the first glance, but if you look closely, you will find out each on them is unique. Qian Yu introduced. Jian Wushuang nodded. He found a spot and sat down cross-legged as everybody else, looking up at the patterns. He looked at the first one. The pattern was ordinary, just watching by eyes. Nothing special. However, Jian Wushuang concentrated his sword heart, It changed immediately when watching by heart. The man with a long sword started moving. The pattern flipped. It was a vast world. The weather was nice and everything was calm. In the middle of the world, there was a middle-aged man wearing a rain cape and a bamboo hat. He was holding a cyan longsword. There was an immaterial air flow around him. Then he moved. Quick and neat. Lifting his cyan longsword, he hacked the giant lake below him. All at a sudden, the world was tore apart. An intense immaterial flow spread around crazily. The huge cyan sword shadow hacked downwards to the center of the lake. A huge straight gully appeared instantly in the middle of the lake, splitting it into two parts. The water from the lake started running into the gully. It was weird that such powerful hack only caused the gully. There was no ripple, no spray, let alone pounding waves. Incredible skill. After that, the man withdrew slowly and stood there. The pattern was then gone. Jian Wushuang was totally shocked. He had witnessed the whole process. It was incredible to him. How come? It was strong enough to split the lake apart but didn't cause any waves? Even a little stone dropping into a still lake will cause a circle of ripples. It's impossible for causing nothing. But Jian Wushuang couldn't figure it out. Since he was good at sword principle, it was easy for him to hack a huge gully in the lake by one strike. However, it was impossible for him to hack such huge gully without causing any waves. Incredible! It was really incredible to him. Taking a deep breath, he then looked at the second pattern. The pattern flipped too. Boom boom pow! Jian Wushuang saw an endless sea of fire. With extraordinarily high temperature, the sea of fire was burning the air, burning the whole world. There was also a man wearing a rain cape and a bamboo hat standing in the middle of the fire. The destructive fire didn't burn him to death. Even his clothes was intact. Holding a long sword, he was standing quietly in the sea of fire, like the master of it. Right at the moment he draw his sword. Chapter 876, The Most Powerful 9 Secret Skills. Chapter 876, The Most Powerful 9 Secret Skills. As the sword light came down, the boundless fire around quenched instantly and didn't stir any sparks anymore. Such an overmatch. Jian Wushuang felt extremely shocked. "How do you feel about Blood Mountain?" said Qian Yu, looking towards him. "Unbelievable!" Jian Wushuang acclaimed. The following two images and the swordsmanship performed within them had given Jian Wushuang an obscure feeling. A myriad of thoughts crowded into his mind when he just skimmed it quickly. There are nearly 16 patterns on the star jade wall, and each of pattern displays an inconceivable movement of swordsmanship. As for Eternal Realm, we would spend long ages exploring the swordsmanship. Besides, each of the 16 movements is different and each of them represents a specific direction. If you want to meditate them, you'd better select one pattern and concentrate on it, said Qian Yu. Understood, replied Jian Wushuang, nodding his head slightly. Although he skimmed only 2 patterns, he had distinguished the difference of the swordsmanship between 2 patterns. The first swordsmanship was to focus all the power into one point without wasting any of it, uncanny yet profound. The second movement, with amazing power, was destructive. The 2 movements of swordsmanship were performed by the same people, but the quality and significance of them were distinct from one another. You can study the Star Jade Wall later. Now I'm going to show you where the 9 secret skills are located, said Qian Yu. Okay, Jian Wushuang nodded and then he followed Qian Yu to the place. The 9 secret skills with a good fame were located on Star Island. People on Star Island were filled with longing for the 9 secret skills. However, it was mandated by Lord Spirit Sound that only Dao Master or people who could pass through level 1 of Black Tower were allowed to select one of the secret skills to cultivate. On Star Island, only the 5 Dao Masters and 12 Kings were qualified to cultivate the secret skills. Jian Wushuang followed Qian Yu and they came to an exquisite pavilion. Inside the pavilion, there is a technique of cultivating the 9 secret skills. Lord Spirit Sound has set a restriction outside the pavilion that people who have passed through level 1 of Black Tower were admitted to the pavilion. So there was no way to let you in. You would have to go in there yourself. Chen Yu said. Okay. Jian Wushuang nodded as he headed to the pavilion. Soon, he had come inside the pavilion. Upon entering the pavilion, Jian Wushuang saw a broad clearing, where there were 9 raised jade tables at the very center. On each jade table, there was a jade slip. Those jade slips were the 9 secret skills on Star Island, weren't they? Jian Wushuang found it confusing. At this moment, an enchanting shadow in red suddenly appeared inside the pavilion, exactly in front of Jian Wushuang. Lord Spirit Sound. Jian Wushuang immediately looked to him. I have guessed that you would pass through level 1 of Black Tower. You didn't disappoint me, Lord Spirit Sound smiled and continued. Each of the 9 jade slips before you has a secret skill and each of them is distinctive. In terms of your vision, they can definitely be called the most powerful secret skills. You can select any of the 9 secret skills to cultivate. On Star Island, there are also some special places where people can cultivate these secret skills. Select one secret skill and enter the corresponding special place. Now you can select. Raising his eyebrows, Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and moved forward to the 9 jade slips. At first, he walked before the first jade slip. His eyes turned towards the jade slip as a flow of messages directly came into his mind. The secret skill of Famine is a power amplitude typed secret skills. The secret skill of Famine had 9 layers altogether, and the power of each layer could enhance by 9 times. If getting to an extreme, one would improve his or her offensive power by 81 times. Divine Realm Expert could cultivate the first 3 layers of the 9 secret skills, while the immediate 3 layers are for the Eternal Realm and the last 3 layers for Tao Master. Such a brief introduction made his eyes come abruptly back. A power amplitude typed secret skill? Jian Wushuang felt much astounded. He was actually not so strange to this secret skill. Instead, he was quite familiar to it. Star River's secret skill, which was one of the 3 ancient god secret skills he cultivated, belonged to power amplitude secret skill and was very horrible. Jian Wushuang was just a divine realm expert, but why was he not inferior to an ordinary Eternal Realm expert and even superior to an Eternal Realm expert with his basic strength bursting out? It was not just because of Jian Wushuang's inverse cultivation. The major reason was that he had cultivated Star River's secret skill. Now, he had achieved the 14 layers of Star River's secret skill with its power amplitude reaching by 42 times. If one wanted to cultivate such a secret skill in the Eternal World to its full play, he could just reach 10 times of its power amplitude. Like those Eternal Realm experts or Tao Master in the Eternal World, they all had cultivated such a secret skill, but they could only turn them all up to 10 times. Compared with the one reaching 10 times, Jian Wushuang who had reached 42 times, 32 more than the previous ones. It had brought Jian Wushuang tremendous advantages, so he would be this tough as his basic strength burst out. The first secret skill Jian Wushuang saw on Star Island was exactly a power amplitude secret skill which could be reached by 81 times. 81 times. Though inferior to the 100 times of Star River's secret skill Jian Wushuang cultivated, the secret skill of Famine was far enough to make many warriors in the Eternal World go crazy. If such a secret skill exists in the Eternal World, it will definitely cause a stir. However, it is almost useless for me, Jian Wushuang said, shaking his head. Since he had cultivated Star River's secret skill, he surely wouldn't cultivate the secret skill of Famine. At this moment, Jian Wushuang took a few steps forward and stopped before the second jade slip, watching the secret skill in it. The Frozen and Snow-Covered World is a realm-typed secret skill. On seeing such an introduction, Jian Wushuang suddenly changed his expression, realm-typed secret skill. He appeared to get such a realm-typed secret skill in the ancient world. At that time, it did have some positive effects on him. As he entered the Eternal World, the secret skill grew useless. So he didn't perform it anymore. Now, he saw such a secret skill again on Star Island. Jian Wushuang immediately began looking through the introduction of the secret skill carefully. The frozen and snow-covered world is not bad. If I'm successful to cultivate it, it will play a big part for me either in one-to-one killing or in a scrimmage. But, unfortunately, Chapter 877, Divine Een Thunder. Chapter 877, Divine Een Thunder. Now I'm stuck in Star Island. And the most important thing is to get through the trials of the Black Tower. The frozen and snow-covered world can help me a lot indeed, but it can't assist me in greatly improving my strength. Jian Wushuang secretly denied it. Such a realm-typed secret skill was used to suppress the opponent. Frankly speaking, it was only an auxiliary secret skill. This secret skill had a wide range of uses. Jian Wushuang had used this secret skill to head off the danger previously in the ancient world. If there was no special case, Jian Wushuang was much likely to select this secret skill. However, he was stuck in Star Island, and only when he passed through the 3 trials of Black Tower could he leave here. So this moment what he needed most was a secret skill that could help him boost his offensive power or greatly increase his comprehensive strength so that he was able to pass through the trials quickly. As such, this secret skill was obviously not suitable. Jian Wushuang continued reading the following secret skills. He was reading carefully the 9 secret skill one by one. After he read all the 9 secret skills, Jian Wushuang's eyes finally stopped on a secret skill called Divine Een Thunder. If you produce Divine Een Thunder in your own body, you will have horribly destructive Divine Thunder which can be fused into your own powerful offensive. And every move is equipped with the power of Divine Thunder so that the offensive power explodes. Divine Een Thunder consists of 3 levels. As the level grows, the power of Divine Thunder becomes more significant with its offensive power being stronger. After reading the introduction of Divine Een Thunder, Jian Wushuang had firmly focused on the secret skill. Produce Divine Een Thunder so that it can be fused into your own powerful offensive. Then your offensive power explodes with your speed greatly enhancing. Jian Wushuang said, his eyes twinkling with cunning lights. The strongest killing move of him was exactly 9th Heaven Sword Formation. 9th Heaven Sword Formation was famous for its speed and power, which was dreadful. Divine Een Thunder could enhance the power of 9th Heaven Sword Formation by a notch on the original basis. Make perfection more perfect. It would be an optimal choice for Jian Wushuang. Lord Spirit Sound, I've decided to cultivate Divine Een Thunder, Jian Wushuang said directly. Well, Lord Spirit Sound said smilingly, raising his eyebrow. You're so smart. You know Divine Een Thunder is not the strongest one among the 9 secret skills, but it best fits your situation. Lord Spirit Sound said while waved his hand. The jade slip where Divine Een Thunder was recorded had a restriction around it, but now the restriction had been cracked. Now you can easily get the technique of cultivating the secret skill. However, keep in mind that you must cultivate on your own, but you can't teach others. Of course, if you have a chance to leave here later, you can do whatever you want with this secret skill. It's out of my reach at that time. On Star Island, I'll set the rules. Lord Spirit Sound said. Understood, Jian Wushuang nodded, as his awareness readily moved to the jade slip. The moment his awareness shifted to the jade slip, a constant flow of messages popped up in his mind. These messages were exactly the cultivation technique of the 3 levels of Divine Een Thunder. Just for a moment, Jian Wushuang had remembered all the messages. There is a token with which you can enter the Palace of Een Thunder any time you want to cultivate. And the palace is specialized for people who cultivate Divine Een Thunder. Lord Spirit Sound said. Thanks. Jian Wushuang thanked him, taking the token surprisedly. Okay, you can go now, said Lord Spirit Sound, waving his hand. Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate to take a bow to Lord Spirit Sound and turned around to walk away. After stepping out of the pavilion, Chen Yu, who had been waiting out there, came up. How do you feel it? Jian Wushuang asked. Not bad, Jian Wushuang smiled, extremely surprised. That is the strongest one of the 9 secret skills on Star Island. Even Dao Master always envied it. It's terrific that you have that now. Qian Yu said smilingly, well, I'll show you 2 opportunity places on Star Island. Then you can find a deserted courtyard there to stay yourself. The Star Island is so big that there are so many places you can stay. Okay, Jian Wushuang nodded smilingly and said, Qian Yu, how long have you stayed on Star Island? Have you got to know people there? Have you heard a man called Kong Ming? Kong Ming? Dao Master of Kong Ming? Qian Yu paused again. Dao Master? Jian Wushuang was stunned. Kong Ming was exactly the Eternal Realm expert who had taken Yin and Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit to Stellar Fog Sea 50,000 years ago. The main reason why Jian Wushuang came to Stellar Fog Sea was to find Kong Ming and get Yin and Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit back to Tang of the East. Qian Yu, as you said, Kong Ming is one of the Dao Masters on Star Island, isn't he? Jian Wushuang said confusedly. Yes, Qian Yu nodded and continued. I've told you that there are 5 Dao Masters on Star Island, the 4 of who know they can finally achieve the level of Dao Master only if they can't pass through Black Towers. How about the one left? What did he say? What bad luck? As he entered Stellar Fog Sea, he didn't know the existence of Star Island at the very beginning. He was wandering helplessly in the Fog Sea, running into an exotic beast and rescuing himself by achieving the level of Dao Master at stake. Then he came to Star Island and knew the rules of Star Island. He used to sign time after time since he had a high aptitude. If he achieved the level of Eternal Realm, there are still some possibilities for him to pass the trials. And this Dao Master is Kong Ming. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang became speechless. How should Kong Ming achieve the level of Dao Master? Jian Wushuang declared and then smiled. That's all right. Although his strength was achieved, at least he is still alive and Yin and Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit must be on his hand. If you don't anything else, I'm off. Qian Yu greeted Jian Wushuang and then walked away. Thanks, Jian Wushuang thanked Qian Yu. When Qian Yu left, Jian Wushuang stood there alone. Kong Ming is quite a Dao Master. If there is nothing important, he won't give Yin and Yang Dragon Phoenix fruit to me in vain. It seems that my top priority is to pass the trials on Star Island as soon as possible. When it's time to leave Star Island, I'll ask him for that. At the thought of it, Jian Wushuang had a token appearing on his hand. This token was an access to enter the palace of Yin Thunder. According to Qian Yu, the 5 Dao Masters on Star Island as well as the 12 Kings would greatly improve their strength because they had cultivated this secret skills. Divine Yin Thunder is enough for me to enhance my strength. I'm going to head to the palace of Yin Thunder at first and try to produce a divine Yin Thunder. As he made up his mind, Jian Wushuang immediately headed to the palace of Yin Thunder. Chapter 878 Sword Heart, the 5th level. Chapter 878 Sword Heart, the 5th level. The palace of Yin Thunder, located in the north of Star Island, was almost uninhabited. When Jian Wushuang took the token and came here, he was amazed at what he saw. It was far from a palace. Instead, it was more of a vast thunder sea. At the sight of this, he saw the whole palace inside was crowded with black thunderbolts. It was a thunder sea, a dark thunder sea. Each of those black thunderbolts in the thunder sea was astonishingly horrible and powerful. Good boy. How could it possible for me to go into the Thunder Sea and produce my first divine Yin Thunder by being devoured by numerous thunderbolts and absorbing the power of them? Staring at the Thunder Sea, Jian Wushuang felt a bit breathless. The technique of cultivating divine Yin Thunder was very wild, but people still stood a good chance of acquiring it. Whoosh! Okay, go! Jian Wushuang breathed out softly as he hovered into the dark Thunder Sea. Upon entering the Thunder Sea, he was being attacked by the black thunderbolts. Fweck, fweck. The thunderbolts, one after another, throbbed on his body with a flow of violent power permeating inside him. When he entered the Thunder Sea, his body got frozen up and couldn't move at all. At the same time, an ever-increasingly sharp pain grew violently inside his body. Pissed. Jian Wushuang grimaced painfully as his eyes seemed extremely calm. under such a sharp pain, he began performing the technique of divine Yin thunder. As the technique was performed, the violent power inside Jian Wushuang's body was pinned down. Although it was likewise violent, Jian Wushuang obvious felt less painful. One day later, some power of thunderbolt was added in Jian Wushuang's body. This power of thunderbolt was feeble. It was hard to preserve it into his body, let alone to stimulate the attacking power. Is it divine Yin thunder? Jian Wushuang just felt weak power of thunderbolt, but a smile gradually grew on his face. Although it's weak, and there is a major gap exists between it and a complete divine Yin thunder which can be used to attack, it can be considered a starting point at least for now. Even with the help of Thunder C, one can't cultivate divine Yin thunder in one day. It took a lot of time. It took time to gradually transform the power of thunderbolt inside. In the dark Thunder Sea, an odd look came into Jian Wushuang's eyes, and then his slaughter body immediately appeared behind him. His world body would stay at Thunder Sea to cultivate divine Yin thunder, while his slaughter body would go to Star Jade Wall meditating the swordsmanship. The two original body collaborated with each other so that the progress had been fast. Behind Star Jade Wall, Jian Wushuang found a good place to sit down with his eyes staring at the profound swordsmanship patterns on the wall. Jian Wushuang carefully observed every one of the 16 patterns and explored the spectacular swordsmanship included in the patterns. After skimming through them, Jian Wushuang's eyes focused on one pattern. It seemed to be the most profound and appealing swordsmanship for him. Jian Wushuang looked at it again. The pattern changed. It was in a dark, vast void. All the same, there stood a middle-aged man who wore a straw rain cape and a bamboo hat and held a cyan longsword on his hand. In front of him, there was a gigantic red exotic beast, more than 300 meters tall. That middle-aged man was like an ant compared with the exotic beast. At this moment he suddenly drew his sword. An ordinary strike of sword. A plain strike was steadily wielded. It seemed to be a very usual, uncomplicated strike, without stirring up any waves around the void. After such a strike came out, the red exotic beast gave out an angry growl of fear with its eyes glaring like bells. A sword light somehow had appeared before its head without giving the red exotic beast any reaction time, chopping down its head as a whole. Then the pattern vanished. What's going on? What's going on with the sword just now? Although I did see his movement, I didn't feel any power of that movement and any sword lights bursting out. Just one sword light bursting out didn't give the exotic beast any chance to escape and killed it on the spot. How did the sword light appear? Jian Wushuang was lost in thought. Each of the 16 patterns on the jade wall was amazing, but Jian Wushuang found this one most intriguing and inscrutable. From then on, his slaughter body had been staying before the star jade wall, observing and exploring the inscrutable sword on the pattern. As he observed and explored, he gradually found out some extraordinary qualities of the pattern. He recognized the reason why the sword light didn't appear at the very beginning was that sword performed by the middle-aged man had exceeded the limit of space. Or that sword ignored space. Such a sword which could ignore space was undoubtedly the fastest sword. His slaughter body was entirely a boar's bed in meditating the sword, while his world body still stayed at the palace of Yin Thunder, cultivating divine Yin Thunder. Half a day has passed in a blink of an eye. Under the star jade wall, Jian Wushuang, who had been sitting before the pattern carefully meditating the sword, suddenly paused and a surprised look grew in his eyes. It's been a while. Have I made a breakthrough? Jian Wushuang clasped both his hands as he could hardly contain the excitement inside of him. At the moment, the sturdy sword heart had began metamorphosizing again in his sea of consciousness. He had made a breakthrough in his sword heart. When he worked his way up in Fog Sea and battled with those exotic beasts, his sword heart had reached the summit of level 4 and was even likely to reach level 5 at any time. After coming to Star Island, his slaughter body had been staying under the star jade wall meditating. As he meditated, he had developed a deeper understanding of sword principle. Until now, he had finally made a breakthrough and managed to start level 5. After the breakthrough, The power of sword heart he could produce had also improved greatly. Apparently, his comprehensive strength also enhanced by a notch. However, such an improvement was far enough to help him pass through the second trial of Black Tower. He had to try harder to become stronger. Chapter 879, She's My Friend. Chapter 879, She's My Friend. On Star Island, the trapped people were still attempting to seek the almost impossible dream as usual, while Jian Wushuang was fully concentrating on his cultivation. In a blink of an eye, it's been 2 years since he came to Star Island. In the palace of Yin Thunder, Jian Wushuang was sitting quietly in the midst of the endless, dark thunder sea absorbing the power of Thunderbolt around. He immediately looked up with a jerk as an unprecedented sharp light radiated from his eyes. The sharp light was brightly like a thunderbolt. I made it! Divine Yin Thunder! His face lit up with ecstasy. The power of Thunderbolt in his body was defensively fragile at the very beginning, but it gradually grew into a pitch-black and terribly powerful Divine Thunder. The Divine Thunder was exactly Divine Yin Thunder. The level of Divine Yin Thunder was extremely high, and it was hard to cultivate it. During the 2 years Jian Wushuang staying for earnest cultivation in the Thunder Sea, Jian Wushuang suffered all kinds of hardships of Wanlei and finally produced a Divine Yin Thunder. This was the first Divine Yin Thunder he produced. Since it had just been produced and had some attacking potentials, it had a lot of room for improvement. There were 3 levels of Divine Yin Thunder, and now he had just achieved level 1. But for all this Divine Thunder was far enough to help him achieve a brand new level. After 2 years of earnest cultivation on Star Island, my strength has greatly improved. My sword heart has achieved at level 5, and then the first Divine Yin Thunder was produced. I don't know whether I can pass through level 2 of the Black Tower? Jian Wushuang clasped both of his hands, remaining a little bit expectation deep down inside of him. With such an expectation he would obviously prove it by himself. Jian Wushuang left the palace of Yin Thunder at once, and headed to the Black Tower. When he just left the palace of Yin Thunder, he saw the whole Star Island was in chaos. A great number of people rose up, rushing towards the perimeter of Star Island. Meanwhile, Star Island rang with all kinds of sounds. How could new people come here? It's been just 2 years since Blood Mountain came to Star Island. Now another newcomer comes? That new newcomer, Blood Mountain, was strong indeed. As the 13th king on the island, he is not the one we can bother. But this new newcomer, I think, is not as strong as Blood Mountain. The whole Star Island was startled by the arrival of the new guy, just like Jian Wushuang's arrival at Star Island 2 years ago. Hearing these sounds, Jian Wushuang couldn't help raising his brows. Another newcomer. Is it Jiao Zui, Ling Long and other people? Jian Wushuang confused. Stellar Fog Sea was widely acknowledged as the sea and impasse, and now almost no one dared enter into such a place. Over 1,000 years, it was not bad that 10 people came here. However, it's been less than 2 years since he came to Star Island, but another newcomer arrived. This new guy was likely to be Jiao Zui or Ling Long, who had come to Stellar Fog Sea together with him. At the thought of this, Jian Wushuang didn't hesitate and headed to the perimeter of Star Island. At the perimeter of Star Island, a long, aquamarine-colored, particularly beautiful figure was surrounded in the center. Countless burning eyes tart towards this gorgeous figure, even more burning than those eyes on Jian Wushuang 2 years ago. At least, Jian Wushuang was a male while this newcomer was a female. More importantly, she was a gorgeous and shapely beauty. If such a beauty was in the eternal world, numerous people would be definitely tempted by her, let alone those prisoners who had been stuck on Star Island for a long time. Although there were some female cultivators stuck on Star Island, the number of them was limited and they were far less good-looking than this woman. Numerous eyes were sticking to this gorgeous figure as if they were starving wolves. This gorgeous woman noticed the stares of everyone around her as her face grew grim and her heart just sank with a bad feeling. It seems that destiny is kind enough to give us such a beauty. Supposedly, we'll see a good day in the following life. A wild and sturdy man said, making no secret of his greedy simile. This wild man was exactly Shi Mo, who had been defeated by Jian Wushuang 2 years ago. As he had been stuck on Star Island for millions of years, Shi Mo became very wicked. However, at this moment, "This woman is mine," a cold voice abruptly sounded. This voice was too determined to make Shi Mo and other people around frowned. Then they all looked toward the speaker. However, when they found the speaker, Shi Mo immediately smiled flatteringly. "It's you, Mr. Tianquan." Since Mr. Tianquan was also interested in her, "This beauty is undoubtedly yours," said Shi Mo respectfully, with a fawning smile. A huge prison as Star Island was, people couldn't be killed in such a prison, and expert coming first was always the elementary principle. Although you couldn't be killed here, your rival who was stronger than you could always torment you at any time because it was not subject to laws. This Tianquan was one of the renowned kings of the 13 kings on Star Island, including Jian Wushuang. Ranking the 6th among the 13 kings, he was rigorous and competitive. Except other kings, who dared offense him on Star Island. If he wanted this woman, who dared say no? Well, the ice-cold man nodded slightly and said with a cold smile, "Take it easy. I'll take her for at most 1,000 years. After that, suit yourself." "Many thanks, Mr. Tianquan." Shi Mo and people around looked delirious. 1,000 of years. 1,000 of years was a blast, about which they really didn't care. "You, come with me." Having a look at the absolute beauty, Tianquan's eyes were filled with wild excitement. As the absolute beauty's face suddenly changed, she looked frightened, clenching her teeth. At this moment, a figure suddenly appeared in the void behind. Jian Wushuang saw the gorgeous figure with an aquamarine-colored, long hair surrounded at the middle of people when he came here. Just as one expected, a smile grew on his face when he saw her. Surely, he also saw the surrounding, including those infatuating eyes of Tianquan, Shi Mo and others people. Jian Wushuang's look grew immediately cold as his body dived down. Bang! Like a falling stone, his body landed violently at the middle of people as a fearful atmosphere prevailed everywhere. Jian Wushuang's cold eyes darted toward Tianquan at once. "She is my friend. Who dares touch her?" Chapter 880, Tianquan. Chapter 880, Tianquan. "She is my friend. Who dares touch her?" The ice-cold voice spread about as people around felt their hearts stop beating. Then numerous pairs of startled eyes immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. "It's him. It's Blood Mountain. That newcomer." Newcomer? Now he's been the 13th king of Star Island. People began whispering. The absolute beauty also looked toward Jian Wushuang. When she saw clearly Jian Wushuang, her face was lit up with joy. "You're Blood Mountain, aren't you? Ling Long, long time no see." Jian Wushuang smiled to the absolute beauty. The absolute beauty was exactly Ling Long. Previously, 4 of 3-clawed Blood Eagle Guard came to Stellar Fog Sea together. They started with good control, but then they encountered a group of exotic beasts and had to flee in all directions. However, Shui Jin was killed while Jiao Zui and Ling Long got separated from Jian Wushuang. Over the past few years, Jian Wushuang had no clue whether Jiao Zui and Ling Long were dead or not. But now Ling Long had come to Star Island. She survived and had been wandering about in the Fog Sea. "You are that Blood Mountain?" A somewhat cold voice was uttered by Tianquan as his eyes looked to Jian Wushuang. "Yes, it's me," Jian Wushuang replied, nodding smilingly. "Well, I heard that you'd passed through level 1 of Black Tower for the first 2 days you came to Star Island. Now you're the 13th king on Star Island, but your strength means nothing compared to me. I'm urging that you'd better wise up and give the woman to me." Tianquan said chillingly. It's been more than millions of years since he came to Star Island. It took a long time for him to pass through level 1 of Black Tower. He was so powerful that he'd been ranking the 6th among the 13 kings. Jian Wushuang had just passed through level 1 of Black Tower. It was estimated that he just began cultivating the 9 secret skill. How could he put it in his eyes? What if I don't give her to you? Jian Wushuang looked coolly to Tian Quan, folding his arms. No. Tian Quan's eyes grew cold, giving a fearful laugh. Do you think you can protect her with your strength? When he finished talking, Tian Quan began attacking Tian Quan. An violent wind suddenly was blowing hard as Tian Quan vanished. Then he appeared again before Jian Wushuang, while there was a black long spear on his hand. This long spear had an increasing flow of air around, gloomy and ghastly. Newcomer, let me teach you how to respect the seniors. A cold voice was uttered by Tian Quan, while the black long spear stabbed directly on Jian Wushuang's head. It was so fast and his attacking skill was also malevolent. After seeing this, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes without panicking. As soon as Tian Quan attacked him, his bloodline power inside his body was sprouting up, transforming into gold-armored ancient god at once. Meanwhile, his blood mountain sword also appeared on his hand. As his sword principle greatly improved, the power of his blood mountain sword became stronger and stronger. With the black long spear directly stabbing towards him, Jian Wushuang waved his blood mountain sword at once. Clang! A sound gave a deafening aftermath, as metal struck metal. Phew! 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 3 black flowing lights abruptly swept around. Tian Quan waved his long spear for 3 times in a split second. The long spear was so fast that it gave out an violently destructive aura with irresistible force. Jian Wushuang's brows knitted as he immediately resisted the attempt of 3 long spears to attack him. When he resisted the attack, however, his body went backward for a few steps, thoroughly flurried. Qianyu was right. There were at least 10 people who had the ability of breaking through Dao Master among the 12 kings, but they always attempted to suppress their realms. Like Tian Quan, he is one of them. Jian Wushuang and Tian Quan were putting a tough fight while he was well aware of Tian Quan's specific strength. At the same time, he also felt a uniquely destructive aura from Tian Quan's long spear. Tian Quan has developed a kind of Dao of his own, Jian Wushuang said secretly. There were a variety of Dao. The first kind was to perceive origin of heaven and earth, evolving from origin of heaven and earth into origin Dao. For example, Jian Wushuang meditated world origin and slaughter origin at the very beginning, and then they evolved into world Dao and slaughter Dao. The second kind was sword principle, saber principle, spear principle, and other kinds of weapon Dao. This kind of Dao was a self-understanding of magic weapon. The improvement of sword heart and the elegance of swordsmanship also belonged to sword principle. The 2 kinds of Dao both belonged to eternal realm, which were not accessible to divine realm experts. However, there was the third type of Dao, which was quite unique. As for the third Dao, it was not necessary to tell different types. People had to explore and create it by their own. People could make their own Dao. The reason why Dao Master in the eternal world was called Dao Master was that they had developed and mastered their own Dao. The reason why Dao Master in the eternal world was called Dao Master was that they had developed and mastered their own Dao. If you wanted to achieve at Dao Master, you had to try to develop your own Dao. No matter what level you achieved at, you would acquire the ability of Dao Master if you created it. When Jian Wushuang battled with Tian Quan, he had perceived an independent Dao existing in the movement of the long spear Tian Quan performed. Apparently, Tian Quan had opened up his own Dao. He'd opened up his own Dao with so many skills himself. No wonder he could pass through level 1 of Black Tower. And he even cultivated one of the 9 strongest secret skills on Star Island, which helped him improve significantly his strength. With half closing his eyes, Jian Wushuang was lost in thought. Phew, phew, phew. The flowing lights shot out from Jian Wushuang's interspatial ring one after another. Under Jian Wushuang's control, the 36 blood sky swords converged in a second. Jian Wushuang had a deeper understanding of 9th Heaven sword formation from 2 years ago. More importantly, his sword heart had achieved level 5. The power of his sword heart skyrocketed, driving 9th Heaven sword formation to largely rise in both speed and power. Go! As Jian Wushuang pointed remotely, the scarlet longsword combined by the 36 blood sky swords was like a haze of sun, shooting up violently. It was so fast that experts around could hardly see clearly the shadow of the scarlet longsword. Then, the scarlet longsword had appeared right before Tianquan. Too fast. Tianquan appeared to be shocked by the speed of Ninth Heaven Sword formation. But with his strength, it was not that fast before he could react. When Ninth Heaven Sword formation swept fiercely toward his head, he directly stabbed it with the black long spear on his hand. Two ghastly blasts of power collided in the void. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.